Every fucking time.
I gotta be real with all of you. Like, I almost feel bad having this intro for these movies. Kevin Kennedy hit me up. He's like, hey, I have an idea for the Spider-Man movies that isn't this bad. And unfortunately, we haven't got it quite yet.
Can I tell you something?
You're still working on some stuff. What's up, Anthony Carboni?
I don't think there's anything bad about it. I love it. I think it's charming and wonderful.
I agree. It's more of a respect thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a lot of the audience say we don't show these movies enough respect, and I don't know that we're doing ourselves any favors by starting the video with that.
I think it's more. I've always seen it as it's more about us. Like
You're
the
right.
harmonica is our dumb take.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And many dumb takes will be had on this show. What's up, Nick?
I was gonna say, I think that's the case until we hit Spider-Man 3. And then we share that blame equally with Sam Raimi and the crew from that movie.
It's just looming. The thing about being here in the year of our Lord 2021 and knowing how it all turns out is you can just feel Spider-Man 3 looming in the distance.
It's fun seeing them set up things that are going to happen in Spider-Man 3, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see how Harry Osborn.
The irony is there is a good chance we'll have a new intro that's better starting with Spider-Man 3.
Show Spider-Man 3 the respect it deserves. The greatest of the Raimi trilogy, says Tim Geddes.
You know what Peter Parker always said in Spider-Man 3? Hey, Hepcat, slap me some cheese or whatever the hell he said.
That's next week. Let's not get there yet because this is kind of funny. Sony Spider-Man Universe in review. That's right. It was formerly known as Sony Pictures Universe of Marvel characters, but as of August 2021, it's now just Sony Spider-Man Universe. We're going to be ranking and reviewing all of the Spider-Man movies. No, we're not. We're just rewatching them because we already ranked and reviewed them. You didn't like our rankings, so guess what? We're going back to the drawing board and seeing what we think a couple years later, leading in to Spider-Way. I keep saying Spider-Way, No Way Home. I don't know why.
You said it
But
the first
Spider-Man-
show, and everybody was like,
Spider-Way.
nobody pounced on Tim when he said it the first time. I was like, I thought of it, but we had just started. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't want to
hard.
start off with that sort of energy.
I keep saying it though, but anyway, Spider-Man No Way Home, that's what we're leading into. It's very exciting stuff. This is Kind of Funny's in review, where each and every week we get together and rank, review, and recap 2 different movies. Except for this week where we're doing 3. We're continuing our Spider-Man rewatches. We're also starting Ghostbusters in review, and later in the week we're returning to Edgar Wright in review with the new Last Night in Soho that I am extremely excited to watch and talk to you all about. You can watch the show on youtube.com/kindafunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny in Review. Nick Scarpino, what's up?
Tim, would you say you're so excited?
Yes.
You
Yes,
raised
I
your
would.
hand for that. You raised
was
your
that
hand.
worth raising the hand, do you think?
That's the joke. It's not a hard joke.
know.
And I didn't say it right.
God, man, we deserve the harmonica. We do. You were right, Carboni. If you wanted to, for some reason, watch this show live as we record it and get the show ad-free, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like our Patreon producers, Molecule and Pranksy, have done. We appreciate you all so very, very much. And because of that, you won't have to listen to the ads for MeUndies, Trade Coffee, and Uncommon Goods that we will be getting to later. I didn't even introduce us all yet because we all just had such a good jive and time getting into it. I'm Tim Geddes. Joining us is our very special guest, Anthony Carboni.
Oh, it's an honor and a pleasure to be back. I'd like to keep this one to a tight 2 hours and 45 minutes if we could. I'm going to try to scale back a little bit on my commentary here because I've got somewhere to be in 4.5 hours. I've got to be.
We'll see how it goes. And joining us again for his first time on the Spider-Man in review train, we got Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Did I catch that right? Are we not re-ranking these?
No.
No, hell no.
Then why am I here? That's the whole point I came. I want to make sure we got it right this time. You're telling me we're not re-ranking these.
Damn.
There's only
Blessing and I are going to make our own because we weren't here for the first one. We'll make our own ranking.
I
We'll
like
make it
perfectly
available.
fine.
Okay, I like that.
I actually really like
Follow
it.
follow my live journal and you'll get that ranking.
And I think me and Anthony Carboni are going to align a lot based on Anthony's thoughts on Spider-Man 1. I'm excited for this because I think me and you are both going to agree on Spider-Man 2.
I still
Sam Raimi's
think
being the best
about
one of all time.
you I still think about you saying a collection of memories about Spider-Man 1, and I was like, God damn, that's great.
What a poet.
Thank you.
What a poet. It's like Aunt May in this movie. Of course, we also have the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Peter.
A fan favorite.
Gotta love it. And of course, it's in review. So we have the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing great. Great afternoon, everybody. Great afternoon.
I know this intro has
great evening.
already been a great sign of the energy we have going into this episode, but I love, and I'm just teasing this out for now, that Anthony Carboni referenced LiveJournal, and this will not be the last you hear of LiveJournal this episode. So
No, it will
get
not.
ready for that. You won't know when it's coming, but it's coming, everybody.
And for whenever it does eventually arrive here, Carboni, make sure the gate on your mic real low so we can.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool,
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
That's some fun stuff, but let's get into it. Today, we are talking about Spider-Man 2. The original title for this was going to just be The Amazing Spider-Man, but they ended up not doing that, obviously. The reboot later would get that name. But I just love that they just called it Spider-Man 2. Like, that is such a bygone era of just like, let's just add some numbers. Like, they just don't do that anymore. Like, I can't think of any franchises nowadays that would ever just put a number after the thing. Am I missing anything?
The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, well, it's Sony, so they focus tested like a bunch. It was almost Spider-Man No More. It was almost Spider-Man Unmasked. It was almost like they had like 4 different titles for it, and then I think it just turned into a fuck it, just put the movie out. We just have to get this movie out, please.
It was released on June 30th, 2004, aka my 15th birthday.
Damn.
And I saw this
Whoa.
on my 15th birthday, and I had a great time being a 15-year-old. It was fantastic stuff. It was directed by Sam Raimi once again. Music once again done by Danny Elfman. It had a budget of $200 million and a box office of $789 million, making it the 3rd highest grossing film of 2004. Would anyone like to guess what the 2 movies above it are? 2004.
The Matrix.
No.
One of the Matrix movies. Anything that had to do with Keanu Reeves.
No.
Can I get? Okay, is Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie?
Titanic.
No.
Fuck.
It's
What was happening in 2004?
Prisoner
Yeah.
of Azkaban.
Prisoner of Azkaban coming in at number 2.
Prisoner of Azkaban.
But what was above
The best Harry
Spider-Man
Potter
2?
movie.
And what was above Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban?
No.
Was there a
Lord of the
chance?
Rings!
No, I know
There
this.
we go. Blessing. Blessing
Shrek?
got it.
Oh, Shrek.
I fucking knew it.
Shrek
It
2.
was.
I was like,
Okay.
what
It
was
was
I doing?
Shrek 2.
Well, because in 2004, I would have been in 4th grade.
don't
In June
wanna know. We
2004,
don't
I would have
wanna
been
know,
going.
bless.
I would have been going into 5th grade, and I was like, what would I have been watching in that moment? It would have been Shrek, or Shrek 2.
Wow.
Shrek 2. It was
Shrek 2. Look, we know what the real franchise was. You know what I mean? We know what the real money-making, long-lasting franchise
Matrix.
was that came out of the early 2000s, and it was fucking Shrek.
It was, and they didn't
Still
bother.
never seen it.
That was.
Hey,
wait, no,
hey,
you're lying. You've never seen Shrek?
Never seen Shrek.
That's
You
right.
should- Shrek is pretty good.
He's never
Yeah.
seen 8 Mile.
Yeah.
Bless.
I've never seen 8 Mile. But
We
this
gotta
is- this is
do.
a story for
We
another
gotta do
time.
Shrek and 8 Mile in review in the
Yeah.
Shrek review series. But
Here's
also,
what I'm
like,
gonna say about Shrek versus Spider-Man. Only one of these film franchises was released on Game Boy Advance cartridges. Do you know what I mean?
I think
Oh,
When you've
I don't know. I
hit
don't.
Game
Which
Boy
one?
Advance video cartridges, that's when you know you're the biggest movie around.
Different
and that
echelon.
was
Video.
Shrek.
Yeah.
It's funny you
Gotcha.
say that, Anthony, because while the box office, while it was only 3rd of that year, it was 1st in another highest selling video category. And it is to this date, the best selling Sony UMD of all time, playable only on the PlayStation Portable. And I think they made a standalone device where you can watch it on TV. But why the fuck would you ever do that?
format
I, for
of the
one,
future.
watched it so many times, this movie on my PlayStation Portable. You gotta love it. When I look at a list of top selling UMDs, the list is as follows. Number 1, Spider-Man 2 with over 1 million units sold. And number 2, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children with 470,000 copies sold. That's where the list ends.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Go ahead, Nick.
Nick Scarpino.
I was told there was not going to be this much video game talk on this movie podcast.
Give us more
movies.
Yeah, give us some more of your jokes, Nick.
What do the jokes say?
There's a lot of them in this.
I'll say this really.
God.
I'll say
this movie got jokes.
I'll say this really quick. Just one thing. We move on. The UMD is the coolest looking physical media in the history of physical media. It's the
Which one was
coolest.
the one they used in Mission Impossible? Was that the UMD?
I don't know.
I feel like they probably used a UMD.
That sounds kind of right. That they might have used a PlayStation PSP UMD in the Sony movie Mission Impossible. That sounds
which
right.
Mission Impossible?
Media. Hold on, I gotta look at it.
Because
I
in
feel
Mission
like
Impossible, like a movie that starts off with Limp Bizkit, you know.
Remember the one where he's doing the hand Mission Impossible 1 where he's like, oh, and it's like a CD, but it's not a CD. But I remember having one of those little doors.
There's no Mission Impossible 1 came out like the 90s, though, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
No,
maybe
it wasn't.
Was it a mini disc? Was it a Sony mini disc?
It must have been.
Oh, so cool. Sony's physical media was so cool, man. Let's do a ranking of that later.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gotta
Sony
love
Beta, the beta, great tape format. Died very quickly.
Rest in peace.
If I can just start off here with some Spider-Man 2 and some stuff before we get into the plot. What I like about Spider-Man 2 here is this is the best one of these three movies, hands down. But this is where shit is falling apart behind the scenes. Like, that's my favorite thing about this movie is everything is about to go wrong, but we don't see the fallout of that until Spider-Man 3. But like, I want to run down the list of insane things that happened before, like on Spider-Man 2.
Before we get to that,
I want to let you know because this is insane.
The other facts I have for you, the awards. This film won Best Visual Effects at the 77th Academy Awards. It was also nominated for Best Sound Mixing and Best Sound Design, or Best Sound Editing. And can I start off with one of the facts for you, Anthony?
Yeah.
And then you can go from there.
Sure.
Tobey Maguire was fired due to reports of him faking a back injury for a larger pay raise for Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Jake Gyllenhaal was lined up to play Spider-Man and had already begun preparation, but Maguire decided to take part after all. However, according to the DVD commentary, the "my back" joke after Peter falls from the roof, where he was like, I'm back, and then he falls, he's like, my back. That was purely coincidental. It was written into the script before Maguire's problem arose. Maguire apologized to the studio execs and got his role back. Gyllenhaal would go on to play Mysterio 15 years later in Spider-Man Far From Home. As I say that, I just want to put this out to everyone. I know that you guys are probably like, you guys were wowed by this last time. And why are you acting like you've never heard it? Because that's how our memories work, okay? We talk about a lot of things and a lot of facts and a lot of movies. I read this today and I'm like, I didn't know that. So there you go.
Also, I was not there and Blessing was not there. So
That's
this
true.
is fun stuff that we are sharing for the first time.
Very true. Very true.
But I will say
for it.
something that was not in there before Tobey Maguire's back injury is if you look at the front page where it says Spider-Man and Doc Ock rob bank, there's a small story that's in there where if you freeze frame, it says, does chronic back pain lead to brain shrinkage?
Oh my
And
god.
that's something that the prop master threw in to make fun of Tobey Maguire.
Oh my god.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
You're playing
Someone
with
did.
don't poke the bear, prop master.
No,
Don't poke the
dude.
bear.
Maybe
There was
the
apparently a
huge
lot of
Jake
that.
Gyllenhaal fan. And he was like, dude, I think this guy really taking
This movie could have been great.
So it was because Tobey Maguire wanted either $25 million for this one movie or 10% of the gross, whichever
Whatever's bigger.
was higher.
Insane.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And
$70 million.
Yeah, and they were like, "No, Tobey Maguire," and he was like, "Oh, my back.
Did you see the
Oh, I
last
can't
movie,
Spider-Man today."
They're like, have you seen yourself cry on screen, bro? You're worth maybe $20 in a bag of Skittles. Yeah, get out of here.
This movie was written basically after they went into production. The first thing they shot was the train fight because it was the only thing Sam Raimi knew he wanted in the movie at that point. And the movie was originally supposed to have Black Cat and the transformation of the lizard into the lizard.
Just like in
And all
Spider-Man
of
2,
that
the video
got
game.
cut. All that stuff was from Michael Chabon wrote a script, and Sony, like, kind of as they were shooting, Sony was like, "No, man, no, we can't do all this. Absolutely not." So the other things that were in that original script is like originally Otto was going to be the same age as Peter, and he was also going to be into MJ because why not?
There
was just a lot of
everyone
weird
in
shit.
New York is into MJ.
Yeah, everybody's just into MJ. Nobody can explain why. Danny
funny.
Elfman walked off halfway through.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Danny Elfman, also into MJ.
But he was very into MJ, but he also walked off halfway through because apparently Sam Raimi became like a monster on this. He was quoted as saying, "To see such a profound negative change in a human being was almost enough to make me feel like I didn't want to make films anymore."
my God.
Wow.
This trilogy nearly destroyed
Rumor
Sam Raimi.
has it, Carboni, that Raimi's inhibitor chip broke off.
That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
The movie took
and
over.
his bow tie started talking to him.
And squeak, it just started squeaking at him. He's like, what? What's that?
So,
I do love
let's
jazz.
get into this. Let's get
So
into
everything's.
this.
I just want to set that stage in everybody's head is like, in the background of this film, everything is falling apart. Nobody wants to make Spider-Man movies anymore.
Before we
Go.
get into the plot, let's go around and see what we think about Spider-Man
plot yet?
2.
Oh.
I love
Blessing.
what Andy is about to do.
I want to
Yo.
start with you.
I love this movie so much. It is such a good movie. Watching it for probably the 5th time in my life now, I can't believe how much of a step up this is from Spider-Man 1. The CGI for a 2004 movie is surprisingly pretty good, right? And like, of course, you look at this movie and compare and look at the current modern Spider-Man stuff in any modern action movie, and it's incomparable. But for 2004, the CGI in this movie, I think, is very fun, and it's awesome to see Doc Ock's his tentacles and how good they look. And I know those were puppets, right? Those weren't like pure CGI, but the way they look in action, I think those work so well. The amount of action we get in this movie, you know, we mentioned the train scene earlier. That scene still holds up so well as both a really good action set piece, but then also the emotional moment of you know, the end of that train scene and then carrying Spider-Man and doing all that stuff. I think that stuff holds up so well, except for Peter Parker's facial expressions during that part of the movie, which to me were so ridiculous and so over the top and so funny. But, you know,
Give me an impression, Blast. You got to do it.
Yeah, you got.
I don't think I can.
Give us your best shot.
Because I'm gonna smile because it's like.
Nailed it.
It's along those lines, and it's so ridiculous and so fun. But yeah, dude, like the way that I think this movie picks up from Spider-Man 1 and helps, I guess, evolve the characters and explores the characters in a little bit more interesting ways. Again, like none of it is perfect and none of it is as I say immaculate as what we've gotten since. But I think for what we think of as iconically Spider-Man and that era of Spider-Man, I think this is Sam Raimi's trilogy at its best. And I even despite the behind the scenes bullshit that was happening, I think this is the movie that made me really happy that Sam Raimi was the one who got to direct these movies, because this movie has such a specific personality and tone, and all the horror elements that are typically Sam Raimi that come into play in this movie, I think really helped to make this movie stand out, right? Like the way that characters react to seeing like a Doc Ock, the way the like when Doc Ock grabs Peter with the tentacles, and like how dramatic everything is. I think there's something really cool and really awesome about the energy that evokes, and the cinematic tone that this movie owns and has. I don't know. I really love it, and going back to it, I really enjoyed my time with this movie. Beyond it being a iconic, like this is memorable, I think it is a genuinely really, really good Spider-Man movie.
Andy Cortez.
This movie better thank its lucky stars it's got Alfred Molina in it, and the action sequences that there are. I think this movie has a lot higher highs and a lot lower lows than part one. I think that now looking back at them, Spider-Man 1, in my opinion, ages a bit better in terms of just the writing being kind of across the board decent. Where in here it's like, we're going to give you some good ones, and also any scene with James Franco, please ignore anything there, because there's no consistency at all with what that dude is feeling right now. And also a lot of it doesn't make sense. I always think about when we watch the Nolan movies, whenever we did Christopher Nolan review, and there is inevitably the Nolan sequence that makes no sense rationally or time-wise, but it adds to the bigger world. And like who cares? We'll ignore that part because everything else is so fucking awesome. James Franco's just thoughts and motivations and writing and dialogue is so bad in every sequence he's in. I don't understand what their thought process was putting him in the movie. And he just seems like he forced his way into being in this movie. And it really fucking detracts from a lot of other really awesome sequences. The climbing the tower scene with Doc Ock is just so iconic, on top of the train sequence. A lot of really series of moments, as Blessing would say, but a lot of also really bad shit, like really, really awful shit in this movie that I think we tend to ignore because the other stuff is pretty good.
You got to give Franco a little bit of leeway, though. He was getting like 4 degrees at the time. He was getting 4 degrees and texting 16-year-old women.
Oh, wow. You're so right. You're so right.
A lot on his
1000%.
plate.
Yeah, he was juggling a lot.
Anthony Carboni, what do you think?
This is definitely the best of the 3. I do agree with you, Andy, where when they miss the mark in this one, they miss big. Like, they take bigger swings in this movie, and so the misses are bigger, but
and more obvious.
yeah, this movie, number one, this movie got jokes, which the first movie did not have as much of. They are mostly at Peter's expense, as opposed to Peter being the quippy Spider-Man that we want him to be still.
The broom closet.
But the just like the hilarious sad sack Peter Parker stuff that you really want to see comes much more into focus in this one. And I also think like a lot of just something that's missing from all of the movies after the Raimi movies is like, man, it sucks to be Spider-Man, and I don't want to be Spider-Man. And that's like half the time I don't want to be Spider-Man and I don't want to be here. And this movie is the movie that gives us that. And I think that's such a core Spider-Man thing that I'm so excited that they maybe overhammered it a little bit in this movie, but I'm glad that it's here. And of course, motherfucking Alfred Molina. If you're going to reuse all your themes for your villain from the first movie over again, do it with Alfred Molina and some fucking cool puppets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Nick Scarpino.
Yeah, I like this movie. I think I think it's always fun to come back to, because I'm always kind of struck by how fun the action sequences are. I love that moment where like the clock arm, the arm of the clock kind of goes down, and Peter grabs it and just throws it right back at him, and then he catches it, breaks it apart, and throws it back at him. I'll never forget when I was sitting in the theaters, that moment where he goes silent and they're fighting as they're falling down the side of the building and kind of tumbling, and like they're both able to sort of hang on to moments of it. Stuff like that was super creative to me. Again, Alfred Molina, like you guys have talked, I can't echo that enough. He steals the show in this, in my opinion. Not the least of which because you really like him at the very beginning of it. And I love the chemistry he has with his wife Rosie. I think the actress does a great job too. And you get this like little moment where Peter's like, "Oh, maybe he's got another father figure here." But unfortunately, these movies, they just never quite strike the tone. Like, I remember watching these in theaters, and every single time now, obviously, as we've seen better examples of comic book movies, they just never hit at 100% where they need to be. And there's always something silly or something just bad, or something that seems really, even for the time, outdated that's happening, where you just keep asking yourself shit like, Peter, can't you just have some level of a work-life balance? Like, hey, Peter, why don't you move back in with your aunt? You can't afford anything. Hey, Peter, there's lots of different things you could be doing right now to make money than, it's just all sorts of silly questions. But the movie is entertaining, and I think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man kind of holds up in it. And I remember leaving theaters in this movie thinking, oh, I'd watch a third one of these for sure if they made one. And boy, was I wrong.
That's a real monkey's paw.
To shout out to Alfred Molina, and something that Anthony has brought up in terms of the jokes, right? Like, the thing I love about when they introduce Doc Ock's character is the joke he cracks, where he is like, "Hey, did anybody here lose a pocket of like $20 bills wrapped in a rubber band? Because we found the rubber band." I think that is such a good way to establish his character as like, oh, this guy's cool. Like, this guy has jokes and he's funny.
He's the cool substitute.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out to that, and then also shout out to Anthony mentioned the jokes at Peter Parker's expense. One of the ones that I like a lot, and it's not even a joke. It's just a moment in the movie is when he's doing laundry and he takes out the Spider-Man suit, which is very risky to be doing in public like that, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you might want to, I don't know, put that in like a bag and then wash it or something. Maybe not have it out there.
Like a garment bag, like a small
yeah. But all of his other clothes being
like
stained,
delicate bags,
blue and red, and like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or Peter Parker just being this miserable Peter Parker is one that I don't know. I really like that interpretation of Peter Parker. I love all of the, I guess, on-screen interpretations for the most part. I think we'll get to Amazing Spider-Man when we get to it, because that's the one where I'm like, nah, you're too cool. But in terms of the nerdy or kiddie, or like in this case the miserable Peter Parker, I think this movie does a good job in terms of balancing the humor and making it not feel like how we felt during the first movie, where it's like, nah, man, you're just weird and creepy and awkward.
Yeah.
In this movie, there are plenty of times where I was like, oh shit, like Tobey Maguire looks great. Like his fit body actually fits his face this time around, as opposed to in Spider-Man 1, where I was like, did they Photoshop that? Because that looks off.
There was definitely he's still a little weird, but yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Did we all laugh at the moment where he fights mops for 25 minutes?
Yeah,
Yes!
we'll get there.
Actually,
We'll
yes,
get
but
there.
let's
We'll
jump
get
into
there.
that,
Emily
man.
No, hold on. I want to
watches
give my thoughts. I want to give my thoughts.
Did we laugh at the part where he just can't get an hors d'oeuvre to save his life? Did
Yes!
we laugh at the part where people just hit him in the fucking head
Yes!
as he's on the sidewalk? All those are so heavy-handed. God
Tim, what'd
bless
you
him,
think?
Raimi.
I think that this is easily one of the best sequels of all time in terms of improving on the first movie. I think it's a fantastic take on 1960s Spider-Man, and I just don't like 1960s Spider-Man, and that's what it comes down to. That's where so much of my opinion of this movie comes from. This is obviously a classic. I enjoyed the hell out of my time watching this. I will watch this movie for the rest of my life and still enjoy it, but it is not what I think of when I think of good Spider-Man movies or stories, and a lot of that has to do with kind of what Andy was alluding to with the highs and lows. I feel like anytime this movie has a great high, which it has so many of them, whether it's the subway train scene of like his sacrifice essentially, and the train fight, and so many moments always have something happening that's like, oh man, that scene would have been great if we didn't have that guy in it, or didn't have that line of dialogue, or if you took it a little more seriously or a little less seriously. Like the whole kind of pivotal moment of Aunt May, like performing this poem to Peter about what a hero needs to be. It comes out of nowhere. It's like, it feels so, this is a movie. I'm so taken out of this because we need him to have this moment. And like the moments happen in this movie, but for them to earn it, they only earn it by basically setting it up and then paying it off without actual build. It's just kind of like, well, you got to do this to get to that XYZ. We have this movie. Yeah. And it's like that it ends up being a very, very, very more than competent film. I would say that this is a good movie. Yeah. I just don't think that it is a great Spider-Man movie. I think it's a good Spider-Man movie, but it does so many things and has so many ideas that are just antithetical from what I like most about Spider-Man. And they just go too hard into some things I do like that kind of take it down a notch. But like you guys said, Alfred Molina is fantastic. I love him. I love how sympathetic he is. I love that from the first time we see him on camera, we're like, I'm in. I believe in you. I believe in your family. I believe in your relationship with Peter. And then J. Jonah Jameson, still 100% 10 out of 10. Killing the game. Every single scene he's in. At the wedding when he calls and he's just like, hey, let's cancel the caviar. It's like, that is so fucking funny. And the movie,
great name.
Deborah, so perfect for the writing there. But the movie ending with the "Go Get Him, Tiger" and Spider-Man going out, and like we see her looking kind of sad as the final shot. Like I remember leaving this movie and being like, "Holy shit, what is the third movie going to be?" This movie does such a good job of building on what the first movie had, adding more Kurt Connors, adding more like other characters that could potentially turn into something in the future, more name drops, more just kind of world building and like where the relationships are between the different characters. We obviously know they don't go anywhere with that, but that's not this movie's fault. This movie built that stuff very well, and I think that is a major props to this, because it wasn't a post-credit scene teeing up a sequel. It was stuff embedded in the movie that's teeing up the future and making the world feel a lot bigger. So for all that, it's like, yes, this is a good movie, but I still don't think that I'm wrong about where I'm at with Spider-Man 2. Andy Cortez.
I also just quickly want to say that I don't think that MJ's writing is worse in this movie, but it's close at a lot.
It's not better.
Like it is. Oof, there's a lot. Her again. I just don't know what the thinking was behind a lot of the writing and them being on screen with like James Franco and her being on screen. What was the thought process there? I'd love to like hear the reasoning for what those lines were, and it's just it's baffling at times when they're on screen.
I don't think they had one.
I also just don't. I've just never thought they nailed the chemistry between Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's characters in these. They just
not really know.
Every line of dialogue they say is such a stretch. Where she's like, "You've always been my best friend," and I'm like, "Have you? Have we ever seen them hang?" And what? Like, you can't just say you've always been my best friend. You have to show people scenes where these people are connecting. And there's no moment in this movie where Tobey Maguire is anything but a weird kind of slog in her life that just keeps turning up. And she's like, dude, I'm moving on. I'm marrying a fucking astronaut, for Christ's sake. Get over yourself, Peter Parker. But then
First man to play football on the moon.
You've always been standing in my door. I've always been standing in your door. I was like, when? In high school, you barely noticed this guy was alive?
Yeah.
Come on. It's
It
so
sucks.
weird.
It
Are you
sucks
thinking
because
of Joe Manganiello?
No.
MJ,
Wait,
are you thinking of Joe Manganiello?
Yeah,
It's like shit.
It sucks because you're right. Like, it doesn't fit between them. But I love the writing of the movie and the theme and tone of their relationship, not the dialogue of the relationship, but him saying the way she looks at you doesn't look at you. However you want to look at it. I love that, and I just wish that their chemistry could back up that type of feeling and that type of storytelling.
And that's the thing. Like, go ahead, Anthony.
I was just gonna say, yeah, they're trying to let the like the Aunt May has a line in here where she talks about how it's been 2 years since Ben died, and I think they're really trying to let that 2 years of space in between do a lot of heavy lifting for some of the plot stuff that they didn't get right in the first one.
Yeah.
I think they want us to think that like over the last 2 years, Peter and MJ and Harry have become closer or something like that. You know what I mean? But
she
they
calls
want
him-
that negative space
But
to fill it in. And they want the negatives. No, and I want that. And they also, as filmmakers, want the negative space between 2001 and 2004, sort of make that first movie a little fuzzier in your mind.
Yeah, like you forget about it a bit.
So they can get away with MJ saying that. It wasn't fuzzy enough. We still remember.
It comes
Right,
back
but
to in the original movie I mentioned that they want them to be Corey and Topanga, and this movie felt like they still wanted them to be Corey and Topanga, and at no point did they establish that.
But I never watched Boy Meets World, but I'm pretty sure at no point did Topanga call Corey an empty seat. She goes, and I quote, I am tired of you being an empty seat in my life, meaning the last 2 years, you just haven't been there. They in no way, shape, or form would anything that the writers put on paper ever lead me to believe that these two characters were close.
It's time for the plot.
Before that, though, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Are you ready for mashed potato season, aka turkey with gravy and cranberry sauce season, aka every kind of pie and more season? Well, MeUndies is here with the softest and stretchiest undies in the game, so you can be ready for seconds and thirds, baby. I love MeUndies. I have for a very long time. Even right now, of course, I'm wearing my lounge pants, the undies themselves, and the socks. I love having that soft micromodal fabric all over my body. They have undies and loungewear made out of soft, breathable, stretchy fabrics that are perfect for everything from pre-dinner activities to post-dinner naps. MeUndies also has a great deal for you guys. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off and free shipping. MeUndies also has a promise. If you're not satisfied with any product for any reason, you can return your order for a full refund within 45 days. To get 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. And next up, shout out to Trade. Are you the kind of person who falls asleep already thinking about the next morning's coffee? Well, Trade's goal is to make every cup of coffee your best ever. The journey to your perfect cup starts with taking their coffee quiz. You use a French press, automatic drip, you're a cold brew person? No problem. Trade will match you to coffees you'll love from 400 plus craft coffees and will send you a freshly roasted bag as often as you'd like. Trade guarantees you'll love your first match. On the off chance that you don't, though, they'll replace it with a different bag for free. Me and Cool Gray had a lot of fun going through the quiz, trying to find him his perfect coffee, and he has been having a great time with Trade. For you guys out there right now, Trade is offering your first bag free and $5 off your bundle at checkout. To get yours, just go to drinktrade.com/kindafunny and use promo code kindafunny. Take the quiz to start your journey to the perfect cup. That's drinktrade.com/kindafunny, promo code kindafunny for your first bag free and $5 off your bundle. That's drinktrade.com/kindafunny. And next up, shout out to Uncommon Goods. If you're on a mission to be the best gift giver ever this season, it's never too early to start looking, no matter who you're shopping for. Uncommon Goods is the place to find remarkable and truly original gifts for anyone. Me and Gia actually recently just did a puzzle that we got from them. That was a lot of fun, just for some like bonding date night time. And there's actually a bunch of really cool date night options there. There was one thing that I was looking at that is a date night painting, where you get this, you get the package and you actually get a 90-minute session with an instructor. You guys get to paint together. It's a whole thing. It sounds like a blast. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. And with every purchase you make, Uncommon Goods gives $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. That's awesome. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/kindafunny. That's uncommongoods.com/kindafunny for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. uncommongoods.com/kindafunny. Now it's plot time.
This is gonna be really hard now that I'm doing it.
Oh my God.
It's time for the plot. No, fuck. It's time for the plot. It's time for the plot. Tim says that it is time for the plot. All right, there you go. It was more of a visual joke, audio listeners and podcast listeners. So sorry.
That was
about
good. It was very, very good.
That's my favorite character in the film.
Oh, mine too. Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought you were getting out of this review in under 3 hours, you're fucking crazy. Let's kick it off. Spider-Man 2, starting with the dopest credit sequence ever laid to celluloid, courtesy of, if I'm not mistaken, Tim, Alex Ross, who drew all of the actual artwork in this. Super cool. And man, I'm watching this and I'm like, fuck yeah, they're gonna nail Spider-Man from here on out.
What I needed was an artistic rendering of Nick doing the Uncle Ben impression. That's what I really needed.
Can somebody watercolor Nick doing his Uncle Ben, please?
What you actually got, Andy, was that Alex Ross nailed Tobey Maguire's weird, confused face when he's dropping off Harry's completely naked body at his home for his child to look at. He's like, oh. He's like, wait, hold it right there, Toby. Let me nail this fucking vacant.
It's the economy of line. It's Alex Ross's economy of line that really captured that moment, I think. That was this was their make good, by the way, because before they brought on James Atchison, they had Alex Ross do a bunch of like concept art for the first movie for costumes, and they never used it. Yeah. And he was kind of a little sore about that. So they were like, come on back and paint the whole movie.
We'll give you the dopest intro ever. And he's like, cool. Thank you. Show me some respect. Give me that score. Hell yeah.
We open on a billboard of MJ, and we're like, oh, MJ's career is doing pretty well. And then we hear some more banger of a VO from one Tobey Maguire. He says, she looks at me every day, Mary Jane Watson. Oh, boy, if she ever knew how I felt about her. Oh, boy, but she can never know. I made a choice once to live a life of responsibility, a life she can never be a part of. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man, given a job to do. And I'm Peter Parker, and I also have a job to do as Peter Parker. And part of me is like this. That's great for the first draft. Let's just cut it down to one line. A lot of these things. We're going to get to Aunt May's soliloquy. That's like a Shakespearean fucking play at the end of this. I'm like, Aunt May, I get it. And then it goes dark. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's what you're going to do here, Aunt May.
So much of this is what you get when you're still working drafts of the script as you start shooting. You know?
Who am I? I'm Spider-Man given a job to do. And I'm Peter Parker. And I, too, have a job.
My job, Spider-Man's job. Two different jobs. We're also two different people.
Do my job
we're the same.
Don't get it twisted.
And we're the same guy.
Anyways, Peter is late for his job at Joe's Pizza, where he's the delivery guy. Let me tell you right now, we talk. I'm pretty sure we talked about this in the last one. But guys, if you're going to start a pizza delivery service, for the love of God, don't do 1 hour or less or whatever, 30 minutes or less, whatever.
No one in New York does that.
Bad idea. They would never have done that. Anyway,
that's such a not New York thing.
It was a thing in the 80s in Riverside, California for a hot second. And then people were like, this is a terrible business model. We're losing money hand over foot.
By the way, if you call the number on Peter's helmet, you actually get Joseph Bleecker Street. And they actually love it. I don't know if that's still true, but you used to actually get the real pizza place.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
And also, what a weird thing for Asif Manvi to do to Peter in front of the public, to give him an ultimatum and say, you have 7 minutes to go this many blocks or else you're fucking fired. What? Like, that's not a, it's like, you gotta understand he's on a bike, and that is not a realistic thing to ask of this person. Like, that's a dangerous thing, dude.
Setting him up for failure for sure. But he said, Peter, you're a nice guy, but you're just not dependable. And that's going to be the theme of the movie here. How can Peter become dependable? At first, Peter tries to do it the hard way, and then he wisens up and he's like, oh, fuck, I forgot I'm Spider-Man. So he takes off, but some stupid kids who don't know how to play with a ball get in the way. So Spider-Man has to save their dumbasses, causing his pizza to go on some random fucking creepy dude's balcony. And the guy's like, oh,
that
pizza.
Dude,
I'll help myself.
Pizza.
That dude is Scott Spiegel, the co-writer of Evil Dead 2. And a lot of the things like you were talking about, where it's like some people don't know how to say their lines or what are they doing there. This is Sam Raimi putting every single one of his friends into Spider-Man, and a lot of that is a lot of those weird roles that we don't understand in this movie.
Yep, that makes sense. Spider-Man grabs the pizza from him, and I like that little part where he's like including the last slice. I'm like, how do you get the web off the slice? Does it come off the web? Can you just get the web off the slice?
There's
Anyway,
there's no way
it comes out of him.
yeah, it's coming out of his body.
There's no way it stayed intact on the flight back to his hand.
Blessing, I didn't even think about that. That is
Like,
organic
imagine
web.
that.
It's a bodily
It's
fluid.
organic web. And like, of course, like
Ew.
he's putting it back into the box with his hands. Like, that alone, like, removed from the web, that is disgusting. I don't want my pizza man touching my pizza. I especially don't want the inside of my pizza man touching my pizza. That is gross.
I want a shot of Emily Deschanel opening up those pizza boxes and all the pizzas just torn apart and like just like folded over each other and stuff, and just like, what is this? Like, they show that one of them is squished.
She just goes
When
like
he's got
this.
it in the butt, but it's just like, ugh.
She just opens it up and she's like, God, I hope that's cheese.
God, I do love the
Closes it.
random the cameo of just the dude just being like, "Hey, you stole that guy's pizza." When
God, that's
Spider-Man
funny. I
takes
know.
it
I love
and
it so
runs.
much.
I really
That's
thought
such a funny, but this movie's got jokes. I actually like that line. The guy's like, Spider-Man stole pizza. I'm like, yes.
I was really hoping we got a reprieve of Spider-Man girl from part 1. Hey, look, it's Spider-Man. Like, I wish we really got her again.
No, Andy, we get something way better in this movie. And I'm just going to throw this out there as we lay it out, as we continue through the plot of this movie. We get the same stock Vicky Vale scream throughout this entire film. And I kid you not, it's the same scream used over and over again for about maybe 20 times.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, we do get this great, wonderful gag. That's Anthony Carbone's favorite of Peter Parker fighting with a bunch of brooms while Zoe Deschanel's sister, Emily Deschanel, just sits there
Is
and is
she
like, this guy
Bones, or
is an
does she
idiot.
know Bones, or
She's
is it
Bones.
just that she has bones in her body?
Bones, man.
I don't
love
watch
Bones.
Bones.
I watched Bones for a solid 3 seasons before I was
Are
like,
you somebody's mom? Why do you watch Bones?
how dare you? I know. I can't defend it. I fucking loved Bones. What do you want from me? I was a big Angel fan back in the day. Whatever. Let's see. Mr. Aziz fires Peter for sucking and then rips off his sticker. And I was like, God, it's hard. And then Jameson fires Peter too because he stopped taking pictures of Spider-Man because Jameson turned the whole city against him. And he was using those pictures as propaganda. And so this is where I go like this. I'm sorry. You're in New York, right? Is there not the New York Times? Can you not just shop your work around? Kids, listen. When you're at a job you don't like necessarily and people are mistreating you, it's always a good idea to have a value of where you're at, an idea of your value in the marketplace. Go over
Yeah.
the New York Times, but like, I got this awesome picture of me clearly flying like Superman next to Spider-Man. Do you want this picture? To which any investigative journalism again would go, you're Spider-Man. I understand who you are.
Literally everyone in the, like, 9-year-old Henry Johnson, who's helping Aunt May move, knows that Peter is Spider-Man's official photographer. There's not a bidding war.
Yeah,
He's
this
not
guy's
getting more
$1,000.
messages at Uncle Ditkovich's house or
How
whatever.
is the press not constantly waiting outside of his house when he leaves and
Yeah.
being like, "Where's Spider-Man?" But no
Where is
questions, no
Spider-Man?
questions.
You know who Spider-Man is, right? And someone doesn't put 2 and 2 together. I digress. It's a movie. We'll move on. Peter is late for Dr. Connor's class, and the doctor tells him, "He's like, listen, man, you're in trouble."
We do want to call out though, Elizabeth Banks, Betty Brant. It was there. Move on.
Fair enough.
Should have been more.
She's like, Peter, sorry, can't pay you for this. I paid you that advance last week. This won't even cover. And he's like, no, what am I gonna do? Connors tells me, listen, you're in trouble. You're in danger of failing out of college. You better. And he's like, well, I'm writing this great paper about Dr. Otto Octavius. And he's like, cool, I know him. I'll hook you up. Tim from KindaFunny.
Was this the scene where he trips and falls with his books and then everybody fucking walks over him?
They beat the shit out of him. They literally beat him in the head. And they're like, we don't like you, Peter Parker. You fucking suck, Peter Parker.
I love it.
It's the heightened shit that I'm just like, this movie doesn't need that. It doesn't. It's better than
bad
Spider-Man
humor.
1. It's
I love
better.
it.
So when this stuff happens, it's weird.
It's very Army of Darkness, Evil Dead. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, we could have toned a lot of that down.
I do
the
want
hors
to say,
d'oeuvre
yeah.
part where he can't get an hors d'oeuvre, I'm like, that's a cute character thing where he's just a little too late to get the thing that he wants. But this shit is like, fuck you. If someone hit me that hard with book, I'd be like, we're throwing hands at each other now, sir.
Yeah. I do want to say that this scene, just like when Dylan Baker came on screen as Dr. Connors, and I just kind of looked at his face and his mannerisms and everything, I was just like, damn, we were robbed. I would have loved to have seen Dylan Baker as the Lizard. That would have been really interesting.
What movie do I remember him in where he bleeds from the gums?
I'm sorry. That could be any movie where somebody bleeds from the gums.
No, I'm thinking about it. There's a specific movie where I distinctly remember someone they're like poisoning him. It's a comedy.
Gum bleeder.
And he's like bleeding from the gums. And like, that's very weird.
Might have been gum bleeder too.
Yeah.
The way he's describing it.
Andy, can you look that up for me while I can continue on with the plot? Anyway,
Sure
Peter
thing.
comes home to a surprise party with MJ, Aunt May, and Harry. Harry it tells him that his company is working with Doc Ock. And then tells Peter,
Delirious.
that's what it was. Delirious, the John Candy. That's right. Y'all thought I was crazy, and now that you know it's real, you think I'm crazy.
All I
No, we
Googled
didn't-
was Dylan Baker gums bleed. Delirious popped up number
There
one.
it is. He says, listen, we're working with Doc Ock, and then tells Peter that he's like, MJ's into you, man. And he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then he gets real cold all of a sudden. He's like, how's your man Spider-Man doing? I really want his real identity. And it's
Fucking
like, Harry, let's not
awful.
talk about this. Now, here's the thing. I said this last time, and I hammer this home. Anthony, you and I are friends. I miss you. I'd like to spend more time with you. But
Same.
if I thought that you were friends with the person that killed my dad, I would stop being friends with you. I don't
Yeah.
care how much we grew up. I'd be like, dude, you need to fucking tell me who this guy is. We need to go to the cops right now, or else we just can't be friends. There's no
The fact that
being
Harry
friends.
is still showing up, right? Like Harry didn't kick Peter out of the apartment. Peter decided to leave the apartment, right? He wanted to stand on his own 2 feet. Like Harry is still coming around, and it's like, hey man, I bought you this ice cream cake from Carvel. It's Fudgy the Whale. I got you a Fudgy the Whale for your birthday. Will you tell me who murdered my dad?
It is.
Harry trying to talk.
I have such a problem. This is where it starts with Franco because this is. Like, I got a personal grudge against this motherfucker.
Got a vendetta.
Because this is where the bad writing really begins. Where it's first off, in any realistic world, Harry is not going to that party. In any realistic world, you ended on bad terms. You hate him because you think he stole MJ from you. Why would you answer Aunt May's call or whatever saying that you're going to go to a party? Like, you hate this guy. You think he's keeping a secret about who killed your father. It's just so, all of this is so
It's
incredibly
very weird.
improbable.
Yeah, I think
It would have been
it's
totally fine to have him just be an antagonist in this movie. And then the first time we see him is at this presentation where he's like, Peter, what the fuck are you doing here? And have them have that antagonistic
Yeah.
thing.
It's-
But instead, they put Franco in this horrible position where they're like, you have to ping pong back and forth between being this dude's best friend and this sinister fucking corporate type. Sorry, Andy, I interrupted you.
It's all just a vehicle to make it worth him getting really, really mad, and that's all it's building towards. But it's done so, poorly.
It's done as if this movie takes place a month after the first movie, where this movie actually takes place 2 years after, and it does feel awkward in the implementation, and it feels very early superhero film, like pre-MCU superhero film, where they are like, we want to set a thing up for the third movie. How do we do it? Like, how do we turn
Yeah.
Harry Osborn into the villain? And I like it in concept, but yeah, in actual execution, it just makes his character worse because the whole movie, he's just this miserable dude who you don't understand why he's friends with Peter Parker. In fact, you don't get the sense at all that he's friends with Peter Parker.
Again, it feels like
Well,
anybody else who worked on the movie did not work on Franco's dialogue. Like it's so off from everything else.
Maybe
But
that
even
was a
Franco,
fact.
but this is the thing. We've seen Franco can do better. And this is what I'm talking. Like, I get the feeling that some of this stuff that was going on behind the scenes, and some of this stress, and some of this like, we don't know if we want to be here anymore. It really feels to me like Franco checked out a bit and wasn't given a lot of effort, because he doesn't need to go from like, hey Pete, yeah, it's cool to be here. By the way, if you don't tell me who, like, he doesn't need to play it that way.
It's so bad.
You know what I mean?
it's
Like, there's a
terrible.
lot of awkward stuff that's going on, and I think it's just the rushed nature of this whole thing in the background is not helping.
Like he
I hate the way his suit fits him. I'm gonna say it.
Wow.
I'm gonna say it.
And
Yeah,
my
if you're
don't like
so
free button
rich,
suits.
get a tailor, Franco.
It just
He's sad. He doesn't have time for Taylor.
2000s.
It just
If you're
ping-
depressed, you're not getting a Taylor if you're depressed.
it just really ping pongs from, hey, happy birthday, Pete. Yo, why have you been ignoring my calls for the last couple of times? Like, I've been calling you, man. And then it immediately goes to, she likes you, man. She keeps looking at you. Like, what are you doing here, man?
Yeah,
you
what's
don't
happening?
belong
Where are we at
here.
emotionally?
Are you trying to go for? Is the goal now a threesome, Harry Osborn? I don't understand.
You're
This
so
is your
weird.
ex-girlfriend.
I'll say this though about James Franco in this movie.
Yeah.
Great hair.
Great hair.
Great
later
hair.
that night, oh god, Peter sees a bunch of unpaid bills and thinks maybe I should go into tech instead of being a superhero, or I don't know, maybe just be more responsible, save people on my off hours. I don't know, work-life balance. Again, Aunt May gives Peter a 20 spot. Peter's like, listen, I can't take this 20. She goes, no, you need it more than I do. And he goes, no, Aunt May, you have no idea how far $20 goes in New York. That's not even gonna get me a cold slice of pie from Joe's Pizza.
Aunt May, Rosemary Harris does kind of bring it with the breakdown of handing the $20 bill. Like everything she does is a little melodramatic, but I did like that. I did like that scene. The one question that was in my head is like, what were the terms of the mortgage on the Parker house? Because Aunt May is 80.
Yeah.
Like, what'd you get, a 75-year fixed mortgage? You got a bad deal, Aunt May.
You have to imagine at some point they remortgaged the house to pay for Uncle Ben's something or other. And
Yeah,
then they
for
just
sure.
Got into bad, right? It's just bad news bears. But also, like, maybe have a renter. You got a couple extra rooms, right? Get a couple renters in there. Like, maybe your deadbeat fucking nephew who's living the big life in his weird, horrible studio apartment next to Mr. Dickovich and his whole family.
$300 a picture is not going to pay for your apartment in Midtown, Pete, but it could probably go a large way towards Aunt May's mortgage.
Yeah, I would say Aunt May's mortgage probably maybe $2,000 a month, $300. That's a pretty big chunk of it, buddy. Every week.
Well, I can't believe we went 3 hours last week talking about Spider-Man, and we talked about so many age differences and stuff. And to my recollection, we didn't talk about how ridiculous it is. I love them. I love them to death. The casting of Aunt May and Uncle Ben looks great. But why is she the oldest human being I've ever seen that is the aunt to a 18-year-old in that movie?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wasn't it in the
crazy.
comics, like the original reason that Aunt May was so old is like she's actually like great aunt or something like that?
That makes more sense.
That makes
but like
sense.
when we got around to Marissa Tomei, you were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Right.
Yeah,
She'd
that's
be like,
correct.
That is age correct.
Same
for
age as
a
mom.
kid who's 15. Yeah, mom
Yeah.
age, older, slightly younger, doesn't matter. Anyway, Aunt May
it is weird,
pulls
though.
Peter aside and says, "Listen, I gotta be honest with you. When I think about that dude that killed Uncle Ben, I really want to just fucking murder that guy." Peter's like, "Don't worry about it. I already took care of it."
Yeah.
I fucking killed that guy, right? Murder. MJ waits around for Peter. She's like, I like seeing you tonight, Peter. And Peter responds, oh boy, yeah. Hey, Mr. Miyagi, a girl talk to me. And it is like
one of the problems that I
Peter
have.
Parker y'all loved. I'm just putting it out there.
One of the
y'all?
problems
No,
that I
you
have.
Y'all, not y'all.
Yeah. One of the problems that I have with this movie is how many scenes are directly mirrored from the first one. And I understand that they're trying to set up plot parallels, but there are so many themes and so many scenes that are directly mirrored. And this was one of them. I felt like I was watching the same scene again without much change from the first film.
well,
Because she's even doing that same MJ thing where she's like,
do you like me?
do you like me?
I
Yeah.
hate
Will
it.
you say it?
Carboni, I fucking hate her performance here because she, as I'm watching it, I go, in the back of my mind, if I knew nothing about, if this was like my first, movie watching and being sort of shown Spider-Man, I'd be like, is she really a villain that's trying to get him to kiss her because she has poison on her lips like poison ivy? Why is she like, well, what do you think, Peter? And like, is she really going to try to fuck him over? It's so poorly like directed, and she's just not, I don't know. Everything with MJ in this movie is not good.
MJ dirty. They do MJ dirty in this trilogy because everything she is like, will you say you love me? Because if you don't, immediately in the next scene, I'm going to have another boyfriend.
It's to the point
then once I have that other boyfriend, I will still ask you if you love me, and if not, maybe a third boyfriend.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't. Again, let's make a distinction. I do not blame Kirsten Dunst for this.
No.
I don't think it was her performance.
No
I
way.
think it was just the terrible plotting of the writing of the characters that did this. Because at a certain point, when these two characters keep going, will they, won't they, back and forth like this, and they keep kind of screwing over each other and other people in their lives because of each other, I kind of don't like the characters.
It's very
at this point.
toxic. Their relationship
At a
is
certain
very
point,
toxic.
you just go, I don't think you two should be together. You have to figure your fucking lives out. Maybe just go on and like be Spider-Man for a couple years and get over it, man.
If she wasn't so naturally charming, I think Kirsten Dunst is just so naturally charming. This would have never played.
Yeah, I'm no longer
barely
rooting for
plays right
this.
Yeah, anyway, MJ tells him that she's seeing someone now, and Peter tells her he's coming to her. He's like, listen, I'm going to come to your play tomorrow. And she's like, I just fucking told you I'm dating someone. That is me.
He literally plays football on the moon, nerd.
Yeah, dude. Anyway, she says, don't disappoint me again, Peter. It's one of those things where I'm like, dude, I would have just been like, Peter, we're done. Stay away. Anyway, Peter tries to sneak past his landlord, Mr. Dickovich.
Named
Great
after Steve Ditko.
Oh, I thought it was just because this guy was a dick. But the man has ears like a cat and eyes like a rodent, Tim.
Great line.
Look,
Good.
here's the
This
thing,
guy's
man.
awesome.
This
a
guy's
good actor.
awesome. His daughter's awesome. Like these
Fucking
are.
weird, though.
are
Didn't need this.
it is fucking weird.
So
I
weird.
like him though. I like.
It felt like it
him
was out of
more
like
than-
Harry Potter or some
The
shit.
daughter
Yeah.
character is it's so
All of a
weird.
sudden, Harry Potter, like all of a sudden, Peter Parker lives in like the Industrial Revolution. Like he leaves Aunt May's house in like 1992, and then he gets to his house and it's 1937 in
Everything's a bread line.
England.
Everything's
And they're
a bread
just
line.
rebuilding from the fucking Blitzkrieg, you know? Like,
super weird. It's one of those things where it always kind of like weirds me out that this daughter, his daughter character is in this, and
so
she's like
strange.
clearly got a crush on Peter, and they never really flesh that out. They never really kind of like.
I don't know what her
She just
purpose
kinda
is.
go-
at
yeah, I don't
all.
know
she
the purpose
comes
of her
back
is
in.
at all.
She comes back in
Gives
3
cake.
just to be treated like a
Doormat.
scum.
Yeah,
Like
He's
it's
a piece of
so
shit.
strange.
It's very strange.
As an Eastern European, as somebody of Eastern European descent, I'm really trying to figure out where the Ditkoviches are from.
The Ditkovich.
Sometimes they speak Russian, but they don't speak Russian like they're Russian, and their accents are very funny. And I just want to know where the Ditkoviches are actually from and what
Listen,
their story is.
Carboni, back
Yeah.
in 2000, whenever this movie came out,
Yeah.
we just lumped
Before
it
we
all
knew
together.
about Europe.
It was Russian, right? That was it, right? And I still make that mistake today. I'll be like, that dude's Russian, and people will correct me, but like, no, that
He's
person's
Slavic
from
or
a
something,
different
yeah.
pla- yeah.
Ditkovich
And it's
has
nice,
some
it's
of the
good.
best lines in this movie, though, where it's just like, "Oh, hey, it's like I got some of what is it rent? Can I pay the rent with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
By the way, I imagine that this is what it's like living with Kevin as your landlord. I digress. Peter heads to his shithole apartment. Probably shouldn't have killed Harry's dad, right?
Yeah,
Like, if
exactly.
Harry-
Karma.
You know, if Norman was still alive, Harry's still alive. We still got that baller apartment. Anyway,
it's
sleeps on it.
complicated. It's bigger than you and me, Nick.
It's true. It is bigger than you and me. I don't know. Harry forces Doc Octopus to hang out with Peter the next day and keep shouting Nobel Prize. And it's like, wow, man, James Franco
Terrible.
literally was like,
Does
"Can
Harry
I just-
Osborn
Can I
not-
just phone this in? Can I phone it in?"
Does Harry Osborn think that he's going to get $100 billion for the Nobel Prize? I don't understand.
But also-
I had to look it up. I literally looked it up afterwards because I was like, I know there is some money, and obviously he's going to patent this technology and whatever. But like, why does he keep saying Nobel Prize money, Nobel Prize? I looked it up. You win $1 million for the Nobel Prize,
Oh shit.
which
But
is not
also-
going to pay you back for your robot arms and your mini sun.
No, that's true.
Tiny sun.
You're in the
it's a little
red,
tiny
Harry.
sun. It's
such
such
a
a small
small
sun.
Small, uncontrollable son.
Yeah, this all of this sequence with Harry and James Franco's character just really reminds me of like, okay, I have a book of like how to write business executive 101. And it's all about the dollars, Nobel Prize, and like it's like an SNL character at this point. It's so bad. All of it is so terrible. Hate it.
But it's funny too because he's
in
like,
a great
I'm like-
scene. Like that's the problem. It's like you take him out, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening. I
Oh,
feel like
the
that's
meeting of
often
the
case.
meeting of Peter and Otto, like this movie to me, like the background that I'm using is Peter's apartment from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It's his room in Aunt May's house, and Peter's big bad in that cartoon was Doc Ock. Doc Ock was for me the big Spider-Man villain. I understood why the first one had to be the Green Goblin, but Doc Ock was my Spider-Man villain. And just the meeting of Peter and Otto and seeing the immediate love between them and Alfred Molina just nailing shit in this scene made
He's
me
so
so
good.
happy.
He's so good.
Of course, they meet and Doc Ock's like lays it down. He's like, "Oh, Connors talks highly of you. He says you're brilliant." He goes, "But intelligence isn't everything." He says you're lazy also. You got to put the work in here, Peter. And it's like, "Oh, okay." This guy's like, "Yeah, it's good." And then he's like, "Ah, cool. Let me show you my cool fusion machine." And it's like, which will effectively make a small sun on the shoreline of one of the most densely populated cities in the United States of America. Why not? Peter and Otto become best
Name
friends.
one problem.
What's that?
Name one problem. Come on. It's a
What could
mini
go
sun
wrong?
right there in Midtown.
Midtown.
Come on.
It's fine. No, that's fine. Fine. Peter and Otto become fast friends, and the conversation quickly turns to love. And Otto and his wife Rosie have great chemistry. Both. I love these two actors together.
Love.
Part of me was
Love
like this. A couple more scenes of these people. That's
Rosie-
good writing right there. When you're like,
Yeah.
I would like to see how this relationship plays.
But
plays
here's
out
the
with
thing. The writing in this scene is kind of corny like when Otto and Peter are going back and forth, like, what about Bernoulli's principal lift? What about Marconi and the radio? It's like, I get it.
Tobey Maguire's delivery.
Yeah, you're smart. But that's what I'm getting at is like Alfred Molina and Donna, I forget her name. Donna,
I'm looking it up right now.
but the two of them just play it. And Alfred
Donna
Molina,
Murphy.
you can tell, was just, and he talked about how much he was in love with this character from the time he was a kid. And you can tell because he nails it. He's pitch perfect. He loves his wife. He is devoted to her. He's very smart. He knows it. He's full of himself. He won't be told otherwise.
You can also tell
nailed Doc Ock in one scene with the same terrible dialogue that everybody else is fumbling with throughout this entire movie. And it's because Alfred Molina still cared.
You can also tell that they have a very, very sexual active relationship, like a great
They
marriage.
do.
Great marriage.
And they
I think they're
like,
poly.
Yeah.
Andy, it's one of those things where like they like tell you about it, but a little too early in the conversation. Or like, we just met.
Let me tell you something. Those arms are the industrial arms. You think there weren't prototypes? You think there aren't machines that do other things in the Octavius household?
They're a lot smoother though. They are a lot smoother.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Otto tells Peter that one way to get the girl to fall in love with him is to read her poetry, and so Peter's like, "That's a great idea." So he
Poetry,
takes out a bunch of books of poetry from the library, and to which I would say, if I was Peter's friend, bro, she's already in love with you. You don't need to read her poetry. Peter does his laundry.
I hate this because like this scene to me is an example of like why I don't like this Peter Parker again, where it's like they introduced this poetry angle, which first off, it's like that is just such a weird ass thing in the year 2000, whatever the hell, whenever this movie is set in this universe, it's weird. I don't care. It's fucking weird. The poetry thing. When's the last time reading a girl to poetry was a good idea? Because like. Maybe the like 1910s or some shit. Exactly. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like I get Otto
play
Zero.
Wonderwall for her, like any other like
something more normal like that. But like Otto saying it to him and then him being like, "Oh, poetry," and then it cutting in the next shot being him at the laundry mat with the poetry book. I literally groaned out loud where I was like, "Oh no, this is a plot point now. Now we have to see how this goes through because they set it up."
Industrial
and the thing
era
that bugs me
Europe.
about it, the thing that bugs me about it is like, if he had time to go to the library and pick out all of the books that Otto recommended to him, you have time to just like swing by MJ's place and say, hey, and do the thing that she's telling you to do, which is spend time with her.
There's a moment that's coming up here, right? Well, you can skip to it, right? Peter, this is the night he's supposed to go to the play. He opens up his closet. He sees the spider suit and his normal suit, and he picks this normal suit. It's a nice touch. Tries to buy the flowers, can't buy the flowers, whatever. Then, of course, as he's on the way to the theater, he almost gets run over by a high-speed chase that's happening, and the scooter gets all screwed up. And then he goes, and he's like, shit, I got to do this. I got to save the day. And the whole scene takes approximately 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But he is somehow an hour and a half late to this fucking theater. And it gets to the point where you're like, what did you do in between saving the day and swinging 3 blocks over to the theater? Did you stop for a pierogi? What the fuck are you doing with your time, Peter? Maybe you suck. You suck, Peter.
Also, I want to talk about this fucking Mickey Mouse cartoon idea. When I see this scene, I think about that Mickey Mouse short where he leaves the tickets for the opera at his house, and Pluto has to like get the tickets to him, and Mickey's just like, "Oh, how do I get to the theater?" That's not how theaters work. Hey, Bruce Campbell, tell him that intermission's coming. This is the importance of being earnest on Broadway. It's got a 4-hour runtime.
I know.
My dude,
good
are
30
you
minutes.
telling me you're 3 hours late to the play?
Yeah. How late are you to this play? Like, you were on time. It's weird. Now,
Bruce
I will
Campbell
say this.
hams it up. He's great.
I will say
hands
this.
by Spider-Man 3, Bruce Campbell is Rowan Atkinson from Love Actually.
Yes. Or Rowan Atkinson from that role that he played.
He is like 100% an omniscient angel who is there for a reason,
He's
a
the
Christmas
watcher.
reason.
Now, here's what I'll say. Having just gone to a musical last week.
This is my favorite one of these three, by the way. I just want to remind everybody of that.
That's the thing.
Having just gone to a musical this weekend, and I asked the guy, I was like, hey, because back in the day, you guys probably haven't been to a lot of musicals. Carboni, you probably have, but the rest of these guys probably don't go to them.
Yeah, because they're on culture swine. Your friends and coworkers don't know anything about culture. Is that what you're saying?
Here.
There you go. Perfect. So they used to actually do this. They used to say, hey, because it's a live performance and because people on stage have to focus, you cannot come in and out during the show. You have to just, you got to pee, you got to just sit there and hold it. That used to be the way it is. Now I think they've changed that probably because of COVID, because people are like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here." I'm out of here.
There are certain times during a play where the ushers will hold you, but it's usually like a minute or two. But remember, we're in a timeless Sam Raimi New York.
Right, of course.
But even then they had intermission.
But
that's all I'm saying.
But I will say, as much as Bruce Campbell is annoying in this, a 22-year-old Nick, I was like, let him in the fucking thing. 41-year-old, hey, you know what? People paid really good money to see Kirsten Dunst in The Importance of Being Earnest on Broadway. Yeah. You got to sit out there, buddy. I'm sorry. You can't come in. That's how it's going to go.
I will say the scene before this made me wonder if this New York uses Gotham, because earlier in the movie, we had the scene where Peter Parker saved the two kids that are about to get hit by a car. And then in this last scene, right, like one of the reasons why he's late is because he almost got hit by a car also. And that was the point where I was like, what the fuck is up with this New York? Because he got to the play, and there was also the thing of the officer being like, hey, I'm going to tow your car. And at this point, I'm just like, I don't think I want to live in New York. No. This movie is making New York seem like a terrible place to live.
This is just where are the civil engineers? You know what I mean? Because this is not Gotham. This is just a Gotham of no stoplights.
Why is everybody about to get hit by a car?
But we did kind of skate over the fact that like that scene is good Spider-Man action, and in just those 2 years, they learned a lot about how to make a Spider-Man action scene.
I love, by the way, but again, talking about tonally off scenes, he pulls up, correct me if I'm wrong, in the getaway car.
Yeah.
Right? And the cop's
he's like, I don't
hey,
care
buddy.
if you tow it, it's the getaway car.
But the cop, no, he doesn't say that. The cop goes, hey, buddy, if you park there, I'm going to have to tow you. And
he
Peter
says,
goes,
whatever.
Whatever, man. Like, it's your fucking car. It's not even your car. Like, the scene should have been played out like, hey, I don't care. It's not my car, right? It should have been played for laughs.
I feel like his line reading is somewhere in between mine and yours.
I
feel like the truth lies somewhere in between.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, I also do like the bit where like he dodges getting hit by the car, and the kid's like, "How'd you do that?"
I love that.
And he's just like, I forget exactly what he says, but he's like, "I eat vegetables.
Eat your green vegetables."
Yeah. And the kids are like, "My mom tells me to do that," and I love that stuff.
I actually wrote this down. Bless. I said, "That's what my mom always says." I just never believed her.
But again, the whole movie. With a lot of things in this movie, I think that like. It was missed just a little bit. Like I like the writing.
With you, Andy.
I don't like the delivery. I feel like it.
That's because Tobey Maguire can't deliver comedy.
I think he's just gotta like. It didn't even feel like Spider-Man did anything. I feel like he's been standing still for the last hour, and then he was asked that question in an interview. Like I need some personality. I need like. Oh, just some vegetable. Yeah. Like I need like out of breath or something. It just felt really odd and like you missed it. It was like perfect. You had such a good setup for this, and it's still a good line. Yeah. I just didn't love it.
The quips feel like they're coming from Peter and not Spider-Man, and it's Peter trying to shrug off like it's sad sack Peter. Because this is one of the best Spider-Man lines in the movie, and once again, Spider-Man isn't there. But Peter's like, "Eat your vegetables." Like the hilarious thing is just a thing that he's saying to brush it off. Whereas, like at this point, I want to hear Spider-Man say, "Hey, stay in school, eat your vegetables. You can flip over a car too." You know, Which I will say that was actually Tobey Maguire that flipped over that car. They used the Tobey take instead of the stuntman take because Tobey did a great job.
Oh. Good for Toby. Peter waits outside of the theater and spots MJ leaving. The actors exit. Then he sees her make out with someone who's tall, dark, and handsome. And we get that it's from the credits. It's John Jameson. And
would you say that he when you see him when he walks up, he's got the energy of kind of like a wolf, like a man wolf, like he makes out like a man wolf.
I was going to say that this guy's out of this world.
Yeah. Is he a villain called Man Wolf? Is that what we're getting at? Is that
his Venom?
He becomes Carnage in the comics.
Really?
He becomes Venom, I think, in one of the animateds. And in the comics, he starts off as Man-Wolf. He goes to the moon and he gets a weird cursed moon gem in his chest, and he becomes a werewolf.
I thought in the animated show he came down with the symbiote, right?
Venom comes with him. Yeah.
And in the Venom movie, they mentioned that this is the astronaut that crashed or whatever, and they mentioned the name.
Right. Cop cars pass. So
great setup for 3 that they throw away.
Peter decides to throw everything he's got into being Spider-Man. Finally, I can murder people with impunity, is what he says to himself. Only he's having a little trouble performing here, Carbone. He can't really shoot the web anymore. So he has to take the elevator down, and we get a fun little cameo from an early 2000s icon, Hal
Sparks, baby, and I love it. I love that it's him, but Go for it, Carboni.
We have 2 hosts of the soup in this movie.
We do. We have Hal Sparks
Oh
and Joel
my
McHale
God.
coming up, and Joel McHale definitely. Yeah, we'll
Joel
get to that.
I had to look up Joel McHale after being reminded that he's in this movie because he looks older in this movie, and I was like, how old is
He's
Joel
way
McHale?
more bald in this movie than he is.
This is before he got the first round of hair plugs.
Yeah, he got the
And that's where I started doing the math in my head, and I was like, is Joel McHale 48 years old? And I couldn't believe it. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, he's 49 years old. I was shocked when I learned that.
Hal
This
Sparks and
elevator
Tobey
scene-
Maguire. Yeah, go on, Tim.
This elevator scene to me is so close to being good, and like I'll even at the end of the day say it's fine, it's good. But
Yeah.
I imagine how much better it would be if it was Tom Holland in that suit, right?
Yeah.
It's just what you were just saying, Carboni, about the confidence of Spider-Man versus Peter Parker, and like the lines are fine. I think they could be better, but they're fine. It's just the delivery. Like there's no confidence. That it kind of just feels like, I don't know, you're Spider-Man in an elevator with this guy. Like, have some awareness
You
of
know
what
that's
that
funny.
feels. You know what's happening here. And also just where you're at mentally. Like, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah. So I will say, which
Tobey
version did we
Maguire.
all watch? Because I watched 2.1, which
I
is
think
like
I just watched the OG.
Whatever's
which
on
is like the
Amazon.
Blu-ray. In 2.1, it's the extended elevator scene with Hal Sparks
It's
and
I
longer?
must
Tobey
have seen
Maguire.
that then. I must have seen that version.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
one
must
you
have seen
saw.
that.
Because he and Hal Sparks, they were just told to improv that whole scene. So Hal Sparks literally did all that on the fly. And can I just tell you, Tobey Maguire gave him nothing as an improv
Nothing.
partner.
Fuck.
Hal Sparks is going, and he's like, "What if we do this? What if we do this?" And Tobey
Hal Sparks is
Maguire's
a
like,
comic. Yeah, Toby
Yeah,
was just
it could
like,
have
I
been,
got to get back.
It could have
to
been a
that.
better scene, but it is still one of the funnier bits in this movie.
I agree.
And the whole thing of like, he tries to give him the card, and he's like, "I don't have any pockets." Like, that's a good line.
Yep.
Peter calls MJ the next day and tries to leave a message for her on her answer machine. And I would just be at this light. I would just be like, hey, why don't you tell her you actually got in an accident? Because that's actually what happened. You can show her your scooter that got ran over. It's not
You
that hard.
dragged it
Actually,
home.
Point.
Literally be
Excellent
honest
point.
with her and be like, hey, I wanted to come there, but I got hit by a fucking car. And
Where's
if she
the
has a problem with
lie?
that, then you move on. Then he leaves her a creepy message instead of telling her the truth. I'm Spider-Man. Weird, huh? If my enemies found out about you, if you got hurt, I could never forgive myself. And she's like, I'm still in therapy from falling off a fucking bridge. The damage is done, homie. Let's move on. Peter heads over to Doc.
Hold on, Nick. You didn't give that enough love. I expected you to give it a little more
Oh,
love.
I'm sorry. Let me say this. I'm sorry, MJ. And then it clicks off. It says, you owe 50 cents. And he's like, I'm so broke, I can't finish this message. But he does. I mean, you know what? I'm going to finish this message anyway. I'm Spider-Man. Weird, huh? If my enemies found out about you, if you got hurt, I could never forgive myself.
Oh, what a coinky dink.
No, but it's not a coincidence. He knows the call was cut off, and he knows he's free to say whatever he wants now,
He's
and
saying
he
it out
says
loud.
it.
Practically,
Bless,
yeah.
bless you like this, don't you? I like
Sorry,
this.
sorry, sorry. I want to be
liked
clear.
it.
No, I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's a coincidence. I'm saying
Yeah.
him being
Terrible.
like, weird, huh? Oh,
Weird,
shit.
huh?
Like, yeah, not that it's actually a
Oh
coincidence.
no, the
It's
actual line of "I'm
Yeah.
Spider-Man." Weird, huh?
Yeah.
I like this call. This to me is a very classic Peter Parker thing of like, I wish these are the things I wish I could say, and I think that's
It's just nobody
know.
says things like this. And I mean, when did this movie come out? 2006,
2004.
1973.
I was 24 when this movie came out. I never said in my fucking life. I grew up in the 80s.
Weird,
At no
huh?
point did I ever say, "Aw shucks, oh boy," or "huh" at the end of a sentence. It just didn't happen. People don't
Timeless
talk like
New York,
that. This
Nicholas.
is a post 9/11 New York.
Timeless.
Okay,
This is
Timeless.
people don't talk like that.
This is
They're
a
harder.
Macy Gray world, all right?
That's true. That's a
You
good
don't have
point.
fucking Macy
Macy
Gray
doesn't
play
exist
the
here.
non-Macy's parade.
It's
and tell
Macy.
her,
It's
"Aw,
Macy's
shucks."
world, baby.
Weird,
Peter Parker's
huh?
just living in it.
Anyway, Peter heads over
I
to
do
Doc
like
Ock.
getting his motivations too. Like I know it's very basic and very like, oh, of course these are his motivations for not telling her. But I feel like up to this point they do a bad job of actually being like, this is why like he can't be with her, and this is why they're having this back and forth struggle. And even though I think as we even go in the movie, that struggle becomes a bit like, all right, we've gone through it, especially when we get into the point where it kind of flips around where Peter's like, okay, now I want to be with you. And she's like, no, right? Like they belabor it, but I do like getting that blatant, hey, here's what's up. And this is why
they may
this is
be
happening.
they may be 180 those motivations a couple times too many for me in this
yes.
movie. But
Yeah.
let's add a third person in the movie that plays the role of the audience and is hearing each side. They're like the mediator, right? They're like, wait, so Peter told you what? And then the next day they're with MJ, and what happened? And I just want them to show the frustration that we have of like, fucking just stop talking to the guy. Like, I'm annoyed with you all telling me all these things.
This is a toxic relationship. They're not communicating properly.
Exactly. Love and sex stuff. It's all about
I will
communication.
say this. The only reason why I like the will they won't they, the sort of the moments in classic Spider-Man where he's like, I'm coming to grips with, you know, the struggle between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I'm having a hard time finding that balance. I love this for one line and one line only. That is unfortunately not in this movie, but in 2008, we'll see it when fucking Robert Downey Jr. stares at the camera and goes, I am Iron Man, and just totally takes all that bullshit away from the Marvel movies. Thank you for that, Kevin Feige, and thank you for that, Robert Downey Jr. But we're not there yet, Tim.
Yes.
Otto uses his robot arms because he's like, hey, if you're going to make a fusion bomb, you got robot arms.
Hey, Harry, here's your
What
Nobel Prize, dude.
technology?
Why are we
Look at the
going
technology.
past the robot arms? Hey, everybody in the room, we're good with the robot arms?
No, not only that, but one of the
We're-
reporters.
No, but one of the reporters asked a question, but she asks a question from a world where we already know that there are robot arms. Like, she asks a question from a world. She says, if they're AI, couldn't they take control of you? That's not something you know.
Timeless.
This is the set of
You don't
robot
understand
arms
that.
you've ever seen.
I'm sorry.
Everybody, this is like if I walked outside and I saw a bear beating a man to death and an ice cream truck, and I went, "Oh shit, ice cream truck!"
Anthony, I want to play this scene out with you right now. I want to play this scene out with you. I would like you to be Dr. Octavius, and I will be the reporter. Okay.
Sure.
But
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to my very cool place that I bought with my wife. We have an open relationship.
Oh, that's okay.
Ask
That's
me
a
about
lot of
that
information.
later. I am now going to put these were real. They used real needles on him in this first shot. I'm going to put these real needles into my back, and I will use these super intelligent robot arms to do the experiment that you're here to see. Yes, lady
I'm sorry.
reporter. you.
Dr. Octavius, you kind of
Yes.
glossed past this. Are you controlling these arms with your mind?
Oh, yeah, of course I am. You'd have to control them with your mind. They have 4 cameras, and I control them all with my mind, and I see everything all the time, and they're just my robot arms. Did you need a water or anything, or can we move on?
No, that was my only question. Yeah,
One
we
of the
can move
arms
on to
gives
we
you a
can move on
water.
to
It's
the-
like, okay, cool, great.
So like, you think that would be like, this has
The rest
amazing
of us all understand.
ramifications.
Otto just goes like, okay, the rest of us all understand what I
We
mean
get
when
it,
I
right?
say robot arms that are controlled by my mind, right?
I'm sorry, from New York, a reporter from New York Times, you've seen mind-controlled robot arms before. This is a common thing, right? This idiot from the
I'm just
Daily
saying.
Bugle doesn't fucking get what's going on.
We are burying the lead here at Octavius Operations or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I'll say. I love this. I love this story. I love how they nailed the character of Otto Octavius. But I will say, Spider-Man PS4 tells this story 1,000 times better. And I'm not saying that to denigrate Spider-Man 2. I'm just saying they looked at this movie and they were like, what was missing? How do we fix it? How do we tighten this relationship? How do we do more with it? You know? This is good for the time, and I still love this movie. But damn, everybody, mind control robot arms should be a bigger deal to you.
Yeah, kind of huge. Like, that's a really big technology. Anyway, we belabored that point enough. Let's move on to the part where he creates a small mini sun in the middle of midtime Manhattan using tritium and a little bit of that ingenuity with those extra arms, Tim. And shout out to a little cameo we get here from Daniel Day Kim, who is like, "Yeah, I'm in this movie too." Doctor,
Just
we
the
have a successful
hottest lab assistant.
Oh, man, I know. I'm like this. I'm like, again, you're talking about open relationship. You're like, is this
Oh,
an
yeah.
appropriate time?
There's
Daniel?
a reason why he
what's up?
and Rosie are helping with the like.
Oh yeah,
Hey, what's
Rosie and
up?
him are like,
Yeah, chemistry.
we got it. Don't worry about it. Otto, why don't you go read some poetry over there, buddy? Because we're gonna make some poetry of our own here. Anyway, shit goes down. It doesn't go well. Otto succeeds in making a small sun, and he uses his robot arms apparently to push the solar flares back into place.
Yeah, I
And
have a
it's like,
question
if-
about what if this robot sun or this tiny sun that's going to be infinite energy, does it need a man with robot arms to push the solar flares in all the time?
Great question. Thank you for that, Daily Bugle reporter. Yes, in fact, we're going to have an army of people pushing this thing back in. We could not automate this at all. There's no way we could actually take these hyper smart robot arms and put them in, I don't know, other metal and just
Because
have
you said
them
they're
operate on their
AI.
own.
So they already have their own intelligence.
Yeah, we just we didn't really look into that.
Luckily, we
That's
have a
great
set of
question.
20. We have 20 of them just kind of lying around. So every
It's so
reporter,
ridiculous.
look under your seat. Look under your seat, reporters.
You get some arms, and you get some arms, and okay, that's.
But I do like this scene for because number one, look, he's a man with robot arms. Like, it's cool. We can blow past this. But and I like this scene because we are now hammering home once again the ego of Doc Ock. The ego of Otto Octavius,
I
where
can
it's like,
control this myself.
I have it.
Yes.
I have this. Not only did I not think about the fact that there's so much magnetic metal in my fucking cool sex loft.
Yeah, it's a sex loft.
I should have really thought about that. But also, I will control this. I do not misstep. I am Otto Octavius. And I do love this as like a scene and a set piece for an origin for Doc Ock. Pitch perfect.
You know what I
Blessing one
fucking
time.
hate though? Oh my god.
No, I think we agreed on pitch perfect, Andy.
I see Harry Osborn clapping, and then
Nobel Prize.
and then a little tap on the shoulder. This is a breakthrough beyond your father's dreams. Thank you. What is the writing in these movies, man? It's so
don't know.
He doesn't just
bad.
say it. He doesn't just say it. He puts his hand on that guy's hand on his shoulder.
It's
like
so
it's a
terrible.
shared moment between the two of them. This movie's got some hairy problems. We'll say
Let's
that.
put this movie up there with The Dark Knight.
No, it's not the Dark Knight. Let's move along. We have a containment breach, of course, sending flares everywhere, magnetizes, so everything starts going bonkers. Of course, Peter bangs out, comes back as Spider-Man, saves Harry, who apparently is like, this doesn't make us equal a square anymore.
Fucking
Even though you saved my life.
sucks.
It sucks. He's like, and then glass breaks and kills Rosie. We get the first of the Vicky Vale screams here. It's definitely not Donna Murphy, I think is the actress's name, screaming.
Yeah.
It's just the same scream over and over again to the point where I was like, this has to be a joke, right?
And our first Sam Raimi reflected surface death in the movie, and we are like so far in.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi used stylistic restraint in this movie.
Oh, don't worry, all that restraint's gonna go out the window in about 2 scenes from now.
Man, I
Because
just
the little chip bursts in the back of Otto's brain, popping off, and then he's all mad, and then Harry is mad that Spider-Man touched him. Everything went crazy, but Spider-Man shuts it off, and then Harry's like, "Spider-Man saved your life. Surely you're okay now." He's like, "He's fucking dead for even touching me. How dare you even touch me?" And then we get a piece of
Stupid, dude.
expulsory
Humiliated
dialogue.
me by touching me.
stupid.
Exactly.
It's so fucking stupid. And I know we
This
glossed
suit
over.
was off the rack, and he touched it.
We glossed over him getting saved, but I just fucking hate him being in the room being like, Otto, stop! It's my money! And then Spider-Man swings in and saves him from getting hit. They land. This doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
What are we doing, man? Awful.
I gotta be like
Awful.
this. You know what? And this is why I can never be Spider-Man, Tim. Because I'd be like this. Oh, it doesn't? And I would have swung his fucking ass right back into it.
Or throw him into the mini sun.
Like, you think I fucking need another billionaire villain guy? Fucking get out there. You're gonna get hit by a cart. I don't give a shit.
The
care.
community, like, you want to talk about, like, so much of this movie would have been saved by Peter just saying anything except a line that was clearly written for a bumbling character. Like, if there are a couple times where Peter can say something very natural that would, and one of them was with Harry later on in this movie. But
We'll get to there. We'll get to that because I know exactly what you're talking about. Peter, you killed my dad? We don't have time for that right now.
Yeah. This is bigger
worry
than
about
what's.
that.
This is bigger than you and me.
Oh, motherfucker. Hold on a second.
So you're admitting you killed my dad.
It's neither here nor there. Neither here nor there.
You know what reminds me of, Andy? Did you ever see the Wet Hot American Summer? The series where John Hamm kills a bunch of people, and he's like, "Wait a minute!" Like he's like, and then he turns out to be a good guy at the end, and then one of the characters is like, "But wait, but you still killed a bunch of my friends," and he's like, "I don't think anything I'm going to say here is going to make you happy. I'm just gonna go." It's that kind of thing. Anyway, Harry's mad. We get a piece of expository dialogue here where someone's like, "Oh, thank God we only had a drop of that tritium because if we had a soccer ball size, it would take out a whole fucking city." It's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then we cut over.
Love that. I love Mr. and Dr. Exposition walking out of there. I love it.
And then
we cut over to
Peter Peter walks out completely separated from Harry after Harry says the line about he humiliated me, and then Harry just wait, why are you not together? And kind of like, I don't know. It's just another one of those unrealistic things that makes zero sense to me.
It's true. We cut over to the doctor's office where now these things have been fused to the arms have been fused to Doc Ock's spine. And I'll tell you what, say what you will about these movies. I fucking love this scene.
This
is
scene
the most
fucking rips.
Evil Dead shit I've ever seen in my life, and you have to think he just put that in there as some sort of like weird fuck you to the powers that be at Sony, because this scene
For
is
sure.
horrifying. And
Do you know what my
insane.
favorite thing in this scene is? A stainless steel surgical chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, by the way, if you don't
I
know, is
love
obviously an homage to Ash in Army of Darkness. With
This
the
is
chainsaw
such a
arm.
good scene, cutting between the different tentacles and what they're seeing, and
love
Otto like clearly not being part of this and not knowing what's going on, and like having to watch it, and
So I've been doing the rewatches with Gia, her sister, and her sister's boyfriend. And what's funny about her sister and her sister's boyfriend is they're normal people, so they don't see these clips on Twitter every year once they recirculate where we have to see it. Remember that crazy moment in Spider-Man 2? So like this is the first time they've seen this in 20 years. And them watching it, when it started, literally her sister went, "What the fuck?" And then it kept going. And a minute and a half later, she was like, how is this happening in this movie? Like, it's so crazy. I fucking love it because I love that they just go for it. But my God, their commitment of like, they're like, okay, we're going to make sure the audience is paying attention here. Let's throw some weird shit at them. And then let's get weirder. And then let's get fucking all caps weird. And then let's just keep on going. Like, it goes so fucking far, so fast, and so slow at the same time.
Do you remember when I told Willem Dafoe to be a bat gargle man? I want to top that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was about to bring in. Like, it reminds me of in the first movie how Green Goblin, we talked about how this man, or at least I talked about how this man feels like he's from a different movie, right? He feels like he's from a Sam Raimi movie that is full Sam Raimi. And I feel like in this movie, Doc Ock, from this scene on, he feels like not that he's from a different movie, but he feels full Sam Raimi in a way that actually does fit into this movie, which is what I like the most about it.
I just needed gore. I needed gore in this sequence.
They're doing this
Fingernails,
cartoon.
it's even worse.
Yeah, the
Oh my
fingernails is
God.
horrible. It's
They
horrible.
waxed the floor for that guy. You know that, right? They waxed the floor and then like literally pulled him over wax. It's amazing. But
That's cool. That's a cool touch.
the idea that they set up so much of this cartoony, wishy-washy Charlie Brown, timeless New York, and then when they introduce the villain is hard, violent Sam Raimi horror. I actually really like, because it really feels like Doc Ock is invading this Peanuts Sunday comic cartoon world, and he does. It is bad that he is there, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous feeling. Of course, he walks out of the hospital in a with a gown wrapped around his waist, and you're like, that was a choice. And then spots, I like this little touch. Looks over, sees a spider web. And he's like, all right, cool. Then he heads to an abandoned warehouse to start again. Over at the Daily Bugle, they workshop names for Doc Ock, and I love this part because this reminds me so much of working with Greg Miller. It's like I come up with all the good names, and Greg just takes credit for all of them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Of course, they do give a little shout out. He's like, "What about Doctor Strange?" And he's like, "No, that's taken." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a little touch."
I wish.
Jameson gives Peter the job of taking pictures of it. He's like, "Listen, I need someone. My guy quit. I got hit on the head by something or whatever. I need you to come to this society event right now and take pictures of my son, the astronaut." And Peter's like, "All right, whatever. I need money." Over at the warehouse, Otto realizes the inhibitor chip is gone, and now his only friends are his little hands, just like me when I was 13. I'd like to apologize for that joke. He decided to rebuild.
Good.
He's like, I'm going to rebuild and give it another shot, but we'll need money first. You know who has money? The bank. The real crime would be not to finish what we started. Just like the real crime would be not to go for the obvious masturbation joke.
Nice
So
callback.
we're
Great
doing
callback.
Jekyll.
Thanks,
We're doing Jekyll and Hyde again. I'm ignoring Nick's joke, and I'm ignoring Nick's meta joke about the joke. We're doing Jekyll and Hyde again, and I feel like some of what Sam Raimi was doing with this movie, and some of what everybody was doing with this movie, is like, look at what we've learned. And in doing look at what we've learned, they kind of wind up making the same movie again, but better. And Sam Raimi's done this before. Evil Dead 2 is literally Evil Dead.
Yes,
It's the same movie.
A weird remake.
It just, Evil Dead didn't happen. Here's what we're doing. And I sort of feel like he was wink, wink, nudge, nudge, trying to do that here, where it's like, you haven't seen this before because I know how to do it now.
I think, I mean, to a degree, I give him credit for this because at least he's bringing a dimension to the character. This character is not just like I'm bad for bad sake. And that is a hallmark of this series, right? I think one of the characters that I look forward to is the Sandman, who I actually sympathize with because you're like, the guy's like, I'm just trying to take care of my kid and no one's giving me a break. But well, that's
Strong
future
villains. Strong villain.
This is where we go over to the bank and we see young and or old Joel McHale, who plays a bad banker, and he gets kicked in the leg for it. Meanwhile, behind him, Otto is just there about to rob this bank. Coincidence? I think not.
At least we get the toaster. It's just so sad.
Yeah.
It's
He's
just
like, oh.
everything is so Charlie Brown for the Parkers at all times.
Well, that's what happens when you're 200 years old and you're trying to still exist in society. Just die, Aunt May. Just die.
Jesus.
Wow.
I know. You guys were all thinking it. I'm the only one that has the courage to say it.
Yeah.
This, of course, kicks off
Well,
another.
I mean, Nick, clearly, Tobey Maguire, or in this world, Peter Parker, her nephew, feels the exact same way. Because to her, for Aunt May's perspective, this horrible situation starts and he runs away.
He just runs
Peter
away.
runs, and Joel McHale literally says that kid of yours is a real hero, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the fact that this bank vault is filled with pirate doubloons.
Yeah. It's a
really
little
is.
weird. It's a little weird.
I love that, like, it's sacks of pirate doubloons.
Yes.
Like, if we didn't need Sam Raimi to hammer home that this is a cartoon anymore, like, don't worry, we'll literally toss gold coins at one another.
I love it.
And also, how did this gigantic man just saunter in here with nobody noticing and knocks the first thing into the wall, and everybody's cool with that, but it's the pulling the bank vault wall off that really goes, oh wow, I didn't know he was gonna pull it off. Like,
It's because a pirate notices and stands up and goes, "No, my doubloons!
Yeah. Oh, they're gonna take my.
I traded those for a toaster."
It's so ridiculous. I mean, I do want to give a shout out to Alfred Molina here, who, before robbing the bank, stopped off at the cowboy store to get a bunch of dusters, and he threw all those trench coats on and showed up in full leather.
Cut the holes for the robot arms. And I also want to give let's give a shout out to the fact that half the time, like Bless said, these are practical arms. These are animatronic arms. They literally tried every shot with the animatronic arms first, and only went CG if they felt like they couldn't pull it off. 16 people working those arms at all times.
they're
worth every.
I
Person.
will
looks
say
so
that
good.
I will say that
They
the
look cool.
first reveal, though, not the first reveal, but one of my favorite scenes that we had passed already was clearly CG arm at that moment, but it's the night scene where Nick had mentioned that he walks out of there like shirtless or whatever. And it's the sequence that I still have saved on my phone because I took a photo of my TV the first time we watched this, where the arm is doing this and Alfred Molina just goes, and he looks at the camera in the weirdest fashion possible. It's one of my favorite like screenshot things because Alfred Molina was like full in on it. He was like, I'm going to make this really scary. And I kind of hate it.
It's so good. Alfred Molina like got so into this thing, he named the tentacles. You know that, right?
Oh, wow.
He named them all. He named them Larry, Harry, Mo, and Flo.
Oh, I think I
and
did know
Flo,
that, yeah.
if you watch the movie, Flo is upper right tentacle, and it's the one that's always doing things like helping him put his glasses on, helping him get a drink, and he named it Flo because he was like, that's mother tentacle.
Oh,
I
I thought it was
love
like
that.
Flow, like the progressive commercials.
I was gonna
as
say,
we-
well, he's pretty much just like he's like Sir Ian McKellen on the Lord of the Rings sets. Like he was so into this universe.
Wizard, Sir Ian.
Yes,
Wizard.
exactly.
This is a great scene. I like it. They're throwing bags of money at each other, and then of course Peter has another problem, quote, performing, but thankfully he pulls it out at the last second.
It's wild how in the previous movie the whole thing felt like a meta commentary about puberty. In this movie, it's more so like performance and getting it up.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it's
find that-
impotence.
It's a weird through line between all these movies.
I love it.
We get more of the same scream, and then Aunt May proves she has some amazing upper body strength of her own as Stan Lee saves people down below from falling rubble. Aunt May, I like the scene that Peter gets thrown through the window next door, and then he has to like slingshot himself as he does so. Of course, Aunt May cracks Doc Ock on the glasses and like throws off his concentration, allowing Peter to kind of take him down for a hot
He
second. and
slingshots
save
himself.
Aunt May.
He
Yeah.
slingshots himself in this
A lot.
movie like 15 times, and I never got tired of it.
So
Oh, I'm
good.
right there with you. So
Keep
funny.
on
The
going.
first time he did it, I was
500%.
like, what's he doing? Is he doing it? Oh my God.
Oh, he's doing it.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. He did
through
it.
the walkway, through the gap in the walkway is the best one.
So
And by the
good.
way, it definitely is one of those things where it's like he in the back of his brain is like, I could just jump out the window and shoot my web and pull myself.
No,
over
this
there,
is
but
way
This
cooler.
is going to look so much cool. It's going to be such a cooler story for the people that work in this tailor shop.
Aunt May's
You
gonna
know
be
what I
so
mean?
proud of me.
Dude, he fucking slingshotted himself. Plus. Like, you don't even know, bro.
I want to point out that in this scene, Rosemary Harris did all of her own stunts. Alfred Molina did not. Alfred Molina famously hated wearing the tentacles and hated doing stunts, and the stunt team would have to trick him into doing stunts. Meanwhile, Rosemary Harris was like, fuck it, we all die sometime. Hang me off of this thing. Push me off of this. Put me on wires. I love it. And they would like literally make fun of Alfred Molina on set because Rosemary Harris would do it and he wouldn't.
She was hundreds of feet in the air without a harness, just out there.
On the top of a building. Her hanging from there and then like landing her feet on the like side railing of the building. Catches me off guard every single time. I somehow forget every single time, and I'm like, oh shit, she's good.
It's funny.
So
I just read this piece of trivia. She was actually in the Spider-Man costume for like 30% of the movie.
Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of sense.
Because Tobey was pretending he had a back injury.
Exactly. Oh, my back.
Oh, my back. Rosemary, get in there, and she's like, honest day's work is good for an honest day's pay.
Anyway, he drops off Aunt May, and she thanks him, and he's like, oh, I thought you didn't like me. She's like, no, I know a hero when I see one. Then when he takes off, a bunch of young women are like, take me with you. Ooh. And it's like,
yeah, I love that we have to like pan up to like women in fucking tube tops, just like that was Spider-Man.
There's so much early aughts bare midriff happening in this. We're gonna get to the Russian and or Slavic guy's daughter who's wearing pants that are so low. You're like, I don't think that's.
What is your vibe?
What's going on?
Ditkovich, what's your vibe?
Yeah, what's happening with this? Anyway,
do you go to school? Like, what's going on?
Like, what is the relationship between you and this old man you live with? I'm just saying. It's like, is this illicit? Is it illegal? I don't know. Do you need help? Let me know. Anyway, Peter has the society event, and he can't catch a break with the Ors Devores here. While Harry gets super drunk on fancy bubbly, then he spots MJ coming down with astronaut John Johnson, and he's like, "Oh no, that's the guy she was with. He's an astronaut. Oh, I'm Spider-Man, but I'll be honest with you." Astronauts are cooler than Spider-Man. Yeah. Peter tries to recite some poetry to MJ, and she shuts him the fuck down. She tells Peter
it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Don't take your advice from a 50-year-old physicist when it comes to running game, Peter Parker.
And then MJ lays it out, and this is the scene I have the most problem with, right?
Okay.
Because she's like, I've been doing this show for a long time. Everyone in my life, even my deadbeat dad, has come to see this show. And you haven't seen it. You can't make it out. After all these years, you're nothing but an empty seat to me. And it's like, wow, they're not friends. Are they best? I don't think they know each other at all.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Harry's like, finally had enough of it. He's like, listen, man, it's been 2 years. I thought I've been pretty cool here, Andy.
I've got a lot of
patience with you, Andy.
Harry's just from a different movie popping in here and be like, I got my own problems with you, motherfucker.
Yeah. And then he slaps Peter.
Dude,
not once,
fucking
but twice.
Slaps.
He slaps.
The fucking
that took a little too far.
I will say this. Whatever you think about their performances in the rest of this film, and we have a lot of thoughts, boy did this fucking like baby slap fight between the two of them feel real.
Yeah, it did. It felt very real. And not only
like Franco does like the little baby slap, and like Maguire just looks like, I just got fucking baby slapped.
I got slapped.
Holy shit! In front of the first guy to play football on the moon. Exactly. A literal line about John Jameson that I love.
He played that's awesome. Of course, then we get a lot in this scene, right? Peter's like, oh, shit, I just got slapped by my friend. Meanwhile, someone underneath their breath's like, this guy fucking sucks, right? And then John takes the stage again. He's like, hey, everyone, I just wanted to let you know that Mary Jane has agreed to marry me. And everyone starts clapping. And then
anybody else get whiplash from that?
Yes.
It's very strange.
That seems fast.
Yep.
Well, she's like, you know what? I'm over Peter. This guy asked me a week ago.
He's an astronaut
right now.
It's a very extreme version of what we've been talking about, where it's like, well, if you're not going to say the right thing, then now I'm with this guy. But like, she just keeps heightening it every time.
Yeah. It's terrible writing. It should have been established beforehand.
What I really wanted to see for pure comedic sake is the slap. Be like, oh, Harry, what the fuck? Why'd you just slap me? Hey, by the way, MJ's gonna marry me. Oh my God, what the fuck is going on? And then Aunt May is dead. She choked on rice. It's Uncle Ben's rice. Like, I just like this sequence and Peter's just like, ah, shucks, what are you gonna do? Like,
it cuts to
Spider-Man sucks.
It cuts to like John Jameson being like, yeah, she's gonna marry me, and then Harry like slaps him again. It's like, no, motherfucker, we're talking. Yeah. And then like he turns back, and then J. Jonah Jameson's like, Parker, get the picture, and he turns around and like Harry's like, no, Peter, slap. You killed like.
Harry's
Doc
like,
Octopus walks in for some reason.
Yeah, he's like, by the way, the house that your grandma used to own, like I foreclosed that shit or some shit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's just.
I will say
And then
something
Bruce
like
Wayne walks in. He's like, I bought the bank. Like, what the fuck,
something
what
that
movie are we in?
was in the first draft of this that was Michael Chabon's draft that I think is a little better is up until this in the original draft, Peter and Harry were still living together.
Oh, that's great. That would
And
be
this is
weird.
what makes Peter move out in the first draft,
Well, that
which
would
I think is
be-
an interesting take.
That would have been interesting, but
Yeah.
also horrible. Peter goes for.
You think he should stay after he gets baby slapped twice?
No, I think I like that they are not living together anymore because I like that at least we find some level of estrangement between
You
these two
baby
people
slapped me
who-
once, Nick, and we didn't speak for 6 months.
You asked me to do it. Peter goes for a swing around the city to clear his head and once again has performance issues, starts shooting blanks early. And then he falls down and he screams out loud, "Why is this happening to me?" To which I would respond, "Hey, buddy, keep it in your head, okay? Inner monologue. We have that in here." He tries to climb the wall and falls. Then his vision starts to blur again, just like Snowbike Mike every time he plays anything. Got to put your glasses back on. Peter heads to the doctor to get checked out. And I'll tell you what, guys. First, I'm like, this doctor's pretty cool. He's wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt. Then he hops up on the chair with Peter. I'm like, nope, little too
Why?
familiar here, buddy.
Does everyone in this movie take time? Like people are alternately slapping Peter Parker, knocking him down, or complete strangers are taking time to be his high school guidance counselor out of nowhere.
It's weird.
It
I've
happens a
always thought
lot
it
in
was
this
weird.
movie.
I've always thought it was weird. Like ever since I was little watching this movie, like, so you're telling me that this doctor is looking into Peter Parker and isn't like, yo, you're Spider-Man.
Oh, the doctor pretty much says it.
I think
The doctor's pretty much like, oh, your
Patient-
friend.
Patient doctor
Oh, okay.
confidentiality. Yeah.
Yeah.
because you have to imagine the doctor was like this. Let me take your pulse and grabbed his wrist and was like, "Ooh, what are those? What is that whole? You have two of them. Okay, I see.
I squeezed your forearm and some web came out of it.
Now I can't get this web on.
It's just
me.
very weird how this whole thing is like Peter is alone, but they don't really want to make Peter alone. And so like literally everyone will take Peter Parker aside for 5 minutes and be like, buddy, I don't know you, but here's what it looks like is going on in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
The doctor tells him, he's like, yeah, man, it's all in your head. It sounds like it's all in your head. And Peter's like, okay. He's like, listen, sometimes if you're conflicted, you got to make a choice, and that'll do what it does. And Peter's like, fuck, I fucking suck. Too Spider-Man. Then he talks to Uncle Ben in heaven, just like
Hold on,
Harry
if the
Potter
doctor
did.
knows he's Spider-Man, that makes it even worse for me.
Well, I mean, like,
Well, then he knows
'cause-
way too much. I'm like, oh, you got to make a choice. You clearly have to choose between being Peter Parker or being Spider-Man.
Doctor
I mean,
patient
he doesn't
confidentiality.
know, but like he's like, yeah,
He
I have this
knows.
dream where I'm Spider-Man. No, it's my friend's dream, and like blah blah blah. It's like, okay, dude. He maybe doesn't know that he's Spider-Man, but he's like, okay, something's going on.
I know.
You know,
The
and you're
doctor's like,
probably also Spider-Man.
I took this as, okay, you're talking a lot, kid, and I just lost interest in you. So let me get you the
Yeah.
fuck out of my office because it's really expensive to rent this office in Upper Manhattan, and I got to make some money. Anyway,
I think
we
he's
cut
I
back-
think he's a Columbia University like health center doctor.
Oh, you think
because he
he's like
mentions
one of the-
Dr. Connors, and he's
Oh,
and
yeah,
he's allowed to
okay.
wear a Grateful Dead shirt to work. So like
the kids. I mean, I'll tell you what, man. You know what kids love in college? Grateful Dead.
Sure
they
do.
fucking love
They
it.
love being a deadhead, man. When I was in college, I was like Coldplay, Grateful Dead, two of the greatest bands ever made.
Wow.
Coldplay was very popular. when
Did
I
you
was in
really like
college, Andy.
Coldplay?
No, but it was
Okay.
they rose to prominence around in the early
Sure.
2000s when I graduated college, and I remember
Great.
every person that I had any interest in hanging out with was always like, "You want to go to a Coldplay concert?" I was like, "I guess I have to. I guess I have to."
Because of the code of chivalry that says if you're invited to a Coldplay concert, you must
Can't
accept.
say no. One of my friends invited me to a Green Day concert and offered me hash, and I was like, "That's scary." Anyway, we cut over to Uncle Ben in heaven.
Yeah, we do.
Just like Harry did with Dumbledore. He's like, Harry, you're not supposed to die yet. And Uncle Ben tells him, he's like, listen, man. he's just like,
I see no
"Listen, dude."
problems. I see no problems. Keep talking. Uncle Ben
like-
is in heaven. Let's go.
He's like, listen, Harry, before I let you go back to fight Voldemort, Harry, I need you to know something. It's just a very important piece of advice that I wish I could have given you before I died, but here it is right here. With great power comes great responsibility. And Peter goes, yeah, I fucking know that, dude. You told me that right before you died, but I
Dude,
don't want
can
to
we
be Peter
talk
anymore.
about fucking Peter Parker imagining Uncle Ben and still
Still
fucking
in the
dunking
car.
on Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
knowing, and his whole thing is, I feel so guilty for dunking on Uncle Ben before he died. Conjures his own Uncle Ben and dunks on him again.
Peter's a dick. He fucking sucks. I'll tell you that right now.
Anyway, the transition here of getting into this, Nick, you nailed it with your rendition of it, of what you're saying, jumping in, and Uncle Ben's in heaven. This movie's transitions are so all over the place, where some of them are super fucking dope. I love, this was in the first movie, but they do it in this one. I love anytime someone's reading the Daily Bugle and it does one of those transition shots of like someone else is reading it. Very fucking cool. But this movie features a like wavy transition at one point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We get a Scooby Doo.
Like,
we get a Scooby Doo or a Wayne's World transition for sure. Let's see. Anyway, he goes, "No, Uncle Ben, I'm just Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man no more."
Like
Peter Parker, and just like the comic, and then exactly like the comic, I imagine, right? We get this iconic shot of Peter throwing his spider suit away in the garbage can as he walks away. And I do like the nice little touch here of editing. I never noticed this before, but as it fades out, the only thing we can see for a hot second is the eyes of the suit, and then those fade out as well.
I also think I also think it's the same alley where the kiss happens, which I think is nice.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Then things immediately get better for Peter, except now he has to wear glasses like a dork. I hate this part of the movie because it's just set to raindrops keep falling on my head, and then ends with a freeze frame. And you're like, what the fuck is happening? This is a
harbinger of things to come. We kept looking at this movie the first time we saw it, and we were like, they're setting up so many things for Spider-Man 3. No, do you know what they were setting up for Spider-Man 3? Musical numbers.
Yeah.
That's what they were setting up.
They sure were.
Good song,
Peter finally makes it over to MJ's show, and she is overjoyed to see him in the audience, we think, until later she says, "You should have told me you were coming." And Peter says, "Yeah, but if I was afraid that if I told you, you would tell me not to come." And then we hear crickets for a second. And then we hear our bigger brothers go, "Bro, that's not good. That's not good.
Yeah.
If you were afraid that she would tell you not to come to her place of work, you shouldn't be going there unannounced." Just throwing that out there. Big red flag for me there. Anyway, Peter
and then he takes that goodwill and goes 100 steps too far, which is like, I told you I'd show up and I didn't, but here I am 6 months later and I did. Let's go on a date. Are you still engaged?
Right.
Peter.
I'm not an MG seat anymore. I'm different. Punch me and I bleed. And MJ responds, "You fucking suck, Peter. You suck." And then walks away.
But then she also goes, "But he is different." Like, that's literally her line. Hey,
you are different.
Figure out fucking what MJ is, please, somebody. MJ is a dynamic character in every part of Spider-Man lore except for these films, and just figure it out, please.
Figure it out. Then the next day, a garbage man brings J. Jonah Jameson the spider suit, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's the Spider-Man suit." And not one person stops to think, are we sure this is the real Spider-Man suit? Has it not been
maybe
replicated?
He has other suits? Like, oh, this one suit in the trash. It's game over. Now, the way I can write this off is
Spider-Man no more.
It's J. Jonah Jameson. They're trying to like any salacious headline they can get, whether or not he shows up the next day. That's one day of selling newspapers.
I will say that I could get more than that on eBay is a reference to the fact that 4 of the original Spider-Man suits from the first movie were stolen, and one of them off of set, and one of them wound up on eBay.
That's amazing.
I bought it. The next day, we see the papers roll out. Spider-Man no more. We get another banger scene with the best character in this movie, the violin singer. And she's like, "Where has Spider-Man gone?" And then, Peter walks by an alleyway. Yeah.
Hey, we all love J.K. Simmons, right?
Yeah. Sure.
And we think his J. Jonah Jameson is pitch perfect, right?
Great.
Hey, what's going on with that scene where he puts on the spider suit right here? And he's on the desk and he's whipping around. What's that about? That's a weird scene.
I always thought that it was a fever dream or it was a deleted scene.
Deleted thing. Like, not a scene, just like they shot it for fun.
Did I miss this? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think I missed this too.
I think
this was not in my version.
This was in 2.1. They might have added it back in, but they shot a scene where, like, after he buys the suit, JJ is wearing it and jumps on his desk and is pretending to thwip around, and like Betty Brant and Robbie Robertson are like staring through the window, like the blinds at him.
I've never seen this before. That's awesome.
Oh, that's wild, because this is something blessed that will always pop up on Twitter like every once in a while. And
I have never seen
until this most recent rewatch, I always thought it was just a deleted scene, like a gag, a spoof. Yeah, this isn't in the actual movie, but they put it in the 2.1 version, and it is wild.
He looks good in that.
Oh my God, I'm looking up right now. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's wild.
It is a wild
I don't know if you can bring
shot.
it up, Andy, but It's there.
That's
Him with a cigar in
weird.
his mouth is amazing.
That's
Do you know what I love about this?
amazing.
Is that means that J.K. Simmons got to be fit for his own Spider-Man
Spider-Man suit.
costume,
He did.
and that must have been such a cool moment for him.
Hey man, I just watched
I
him
love
in a
it.
show. What movie? Oh no, and he's jacked. He's always been jacked.
Yeah, he's a built dude. Did you
just
see it
watched
like in
him.
Whiplash? He's just like in that tight black T-shirt the whole time, just like rippling, and you're just
No,
like, "Damn, abusive teacher, you strong."
I just watched him in the final season of Goliath, and he played the bad guy. He played the big bad in that, and he's just constantly. I don't know if he wrote this into his contract, but I swear to God, every third scene he's working out. Like he's
jacked,
literally
dude.
working out in the scene. I'm like, what a
Cave
fucking
Johnson
genius.
is jacked as
What
hell.
a genius.
Yeah, here we
There
go.
it
Thanks,
is.
Andy.
This is absolutely amazing.
So it
hilarious.
always felt like a fever dream watching it back in the day. I never knew if it was
so
real or
weird.
not. It is very real.
Okay,
right,
I'm
back-
glad that we have confirmation that it's not in theatrical, though. That's a good.
Yeah.
That was a smart decision to not put it in theatrical.
Back to the plot. We get another shot of the woman with the violin singing the OG Spider-Man song. Still love that. Papers roll out. Spider-Man, no more. Peter sees a dude getting his ass kicked in the alleyway and is like, "Nope, I can't help." Hey, Peter, guess what? You can still call the cops. You're still law enforcement, and you're still a fucking human being, right? He's like, "Oh, that gotta be fine. I can't do anything." Weirdo. Anyway, Peter.
Ridiculous.
Then the next day, or later that day, Peter finally comes clean to Aunt May, tells him it's his fault that Uncle Ben died, and she straight up walks out on him. Doc Ock rebuilds his machine while Harry obsesses over Spider-Man. Bernard tries to tell him some fucking weird shit's going down, and Harry's just like, "Shut up, Bernard. Go pound sand." And we can all agree Bernard sucks in this too, because it's like, dude, you know what's going on, but it doesn't matter. Doc Ock comes over for a
What does
visit.
that line read? He's one of those ones. I want to know if he's a friend of Raimi too, Bernard.
I thought he was one of your classic Hollywood actors that you love, Carbone.
Because he
where it's
just
like,
comes
this
in.
guy
No,
was in the
I have
Titanic
no idea who
originally.
that guy is. And he walks in. He's like, "At least your father only obsessed about the business."
Such a weird line. I fucking hated that moment so much. Like, where did you come from?
Get outta here,
Are you
Bernard.
somebody's grandpa that, whatever?
Franco's having enough problems in this movie without getting a scene partner like Bernard. You know what I mean?
We don't need to
throws the
double
knife
down
in
on
the
this.
Doc Ock rebuilds his machine, and then he comes over to visit to get more tritium from Harry, and then they strike a deal. He says, "Bring me Spider-Man, and I'll give you all the tritium you could ever want." Except we have already established he's only about 25 pounds, this bad boy on all of Earth. So it's going to be that. That's it. Start with Peter Parker, and he goes, as he's walking away, he turns back and says, "Have it ready." Which is a
Don't
dumb
hurt
thing to
Peter,
say.
says Harry
it's like,
after
don't-
throwing Harry under the bus, or after throwing Peter under the bus.
Just dumb. Again, commit to this character being a bad guy. Why are we trying to make him redeemable? Anyway, Peter sees a fire and can't help himself. There's a kid stuck on the second floor. Remember what happened last time? Watch out for goblins. He runs in and despite not having any spider strength, still manages to save the kid, or rather, I should say, be saved by the kid, because this 2-year-old has unbelievable strength to be able to pull him up from this fire. She just
Now
grabs
he-
his thumb and like muscles him up. I'm like,
She
what's
doesn't
going on with
actually
you? The
pull
Rock?
him up. It was symbolic. She didn't really
pulls
pull him up.
And then they do the
No,
sugar
Nicholas,
thing, and she's got,
absolutely
like,
not.
just a giant bicep.
I will not allow
One arm
this. This
is
is another one
Peter
of your
Parker.
things. You cannot have this. The child
Well,
does not pull Peter Parker up.
She held
Absolutely
him up by his throat, and she was like, "Next time, you better get here quicker."
You better fucking get here quicker, bro.
Throws him through a wall.
Just drops him.
Of course, he makes it out alive as he does so, and he overhears 2 firefighters saying, "Unfortunately, someone did die in that fire."
Which is fucked up.
And it's fucked up.
And look, here's the thing. Like, I think this movie missed out on a lot of opportunities, as we've already talked about. But I don't need to see somebody burning alive, but I need to have the grief of like hearing somebody else there, Peter realizing he can't get to them in time because he isn't at full power. And like, I need that grief. I don't like want just somebody to say that somebody died. I kind of like
Right. I needed to
need
see
that
that guy
really
die.
like, holy shit, this is really fucked up. And
That's true.
if only he was Spider-Man, he could have done something, but he's lost all his power. And I need that to hit harder there. And it just doesn't quite hit as hard as it can.
Especially
Especially in a
because
movie
Toby's.
Where
Sorry,
Doc
go ahead,
Ock
Tim.
violently kills everybody earlier in the scene. Like, how are you gonna have the fingernails but not have this?
When
I
you've got
like the-
Alfred Molina just squeezing the juice out of every scene, you can't have this thing where Toby he just stares off and we're supposed to figure out what Spider-Man's internal monologue is. He does a lot of that in the first one. And I feel like this is one of those moments where he does that again. And I'm like, Toby, you need to give me a little bit more than just staring off and not blinking. Because that's the same thing you do when MJ says that she doesn't want to go to dinner with you. And I need to understand that there's more going on here.
Yeah. Bless
I
you.
do like the turnaround. Yeah, I was gonna say I do like the turnaround of him being like, "Oh shit, I did it! Like I don't need to be Spider-Man. I was able to save this person as Peter Parker," and then getting that news of, "Oh no, you fucked up. Like,
Oh no, you could have done more though.
You could have done more. Somebody died because you weren't at your full level. Like I like the like just the turnaround of it.
I also forgot how the scene was sort of set up because he saves the girl, he gives the daughter back to the parents, and he just runs off. I was like, damn, you're really not gonna stick around for questions? Like they should probably want to talk to you, or maybe. And the next scene, he's there like he's bundled up with the ambulance because it looked like he just ran away. Like I got to get away from the scene, and then immediately was like being questioned there, like just kind of bundled up. He's got a bunch of blankets on, a little cup of cocoa. You know what I mean? Yeah. Very weird.
Of course, he says to himself, "Am I not supposed to have what I want, what I need? What am I supposed to do?" And then we get
That's
another
a good moment. That's a good
moment.
Peter Parker moment. It's something that is missing from a lot of these later films. That's all I'm going to say.
Is that the one that he's talking out the window?
Yeah.
Decent writing, horrible performance. I fucking hate this. God damn, I hate this.
Damn,
it's so
okay,
bad.
You guys,
I can't stand
definitely
it.
on the opposite side of this one. There you go.
Wow.
Then we get a really weird scene where Peter and his landlord's daughter eat chocolate cake together. And she's like, "Oh, I got a message for you. It's from your Aunt May." When he opens it up, it says, "You suck, Peter. You fucking suck."
No, it doesn't.
I know, it doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't.
But it should say that.
The fact that Aunt May is like mad at Peter
hate
for
it.
the Uncle Ben thing is like, I understand that trauma is difficult and everybody deals with it in different ways. It is just simply unbelievable the way she walks away from him and then is not mad at him for just ditching her at the bank. Like,
Anyway, Aunt May has decided to move out of her house with the help of Henry Jackson from across the street, who I assume is a comic book character, because they make a lot.
so.
They
I
talk
don't
about
think
it
so.
a
I think
lot.
that's just little Henry
He's one of
Jackson.
Sam Raimi's friends.
Not a character. Holy shit! She's like, you know, Henry Jackson. Henry Jackson, who's like this, that, and that. Henry Jackson, and they mentioned his name like 500. I was like, this kid's he's got to be a Spider-Man variant, right? Guess not. Anyway, Aunt May tells him that he did the right thing telling the truth and that she loves him, but unfortunately he still blows. No, JK, they hug and it's nice, and Peter gets mad that Aunt May gave away his comic books, and then Henry asks where Spider-Man went, and he goes, he quit. And then Henry goes, he'll be back, right? And Henry wants to be Spider-Man, and he's like, I don't know, man. Fuck, kid. I don't know anything.
And
then Henry goes away.
Why is this? This is another one of those kids. This is another one of those New Yorkers that's just like, hey, man, I don't really know you, but I got 5 minutes of things to say to you right now that are very important.
But also, like, almost better performance than anything Toby does in this movie. Like, with this kid, like, pretty decent actor. Like, wow, we got to figure out. We got to put this kid in more scenes. You know?
I mean, look, I'm bagging on Toby in this one too, but he's not that bad. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
I guess it's just the last scene that we just saw him talking out the window, the one that like you really like and I really don't like. The delivery there was just so. It really felt like I'm just kind of reading through a script right here, and very poorly.
But I mean, more than Henry Jackson, this is where Aunt May just goes off, and I like this because. Yes, this is one of those scenes where we are hinting at the fact that Aunt May already knows, right? But also, damn, Aunt May, have you been going to like Rotary Club meetings? Are you like learning public speaking? Have you been up on Skillshare?
Would you like me to read? I swear to God, the paragraph of dialogue that she has.
Please do, Nick.
In this
please.
Next. She says,
Read it in your
Lord
Rosemary
knows,
Harris voice.
Lord knows that kids like Henry need a hero. Setting examples for all of us. Everyone loves a hero. People line up for a man. They cheer for them. They scream their name. And years later, they'll tell how they stood in the rain for hours just to get a glimpse of the one that taught them to hold on for a second longer. I believe in heroes. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride. Even though sometimes we have to be steady and give up the things we want the most, even our dreams.
Save us,
break this down for a second. Let's break this down. Let's break this down for a second. She starts by saying there's a hero in all of us. Heroes give us, inspire us, right? They inspire us to do better. And then she says, hey, but guess what? Sometimes you have to give up your dreams to be a hero. It goes dark at the end here, and Peter's like,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about here, Aunt May? Like, what are we saying? Like, 'cause
Listen,
do you know
that is
Spider-Man?
the subtext of a woman who all of a sudden, during her retirement years, had to take on an orphan that she did not plan for that destroyed her retirement fund.
I'm a hero for you.
Uncle Ben and I used to have an open
Sometimes you
relationship.
gotta do shit you don't want to do.
Exactly. That's so true. Of course, Peter's like, I am strong. I have focus now again. He takes to the roof, strong focus on what I want. He runs in slow motion. And man, watching Tobey Maguire run in slow motion is something. Too bad he falls on his ass.
Hey,
We cut back over to
fun fact about this. He says strong focus, jumps and says, I'm back. And then he hits his back on a Ford Focus.
It's hilarious.
Oh, that's really good.
Well, they call the lines there. He goes, I'm back. And then when he hits the thing,
he goes, oh, my back. And it shows that it's a Ford Focus.
No,
and I'm
that's
just like,
amazing.
In the
damn,
alternate
this movie
take-
got jokes.
In the alternate take, Andy, he goes, my back, Ford Focus.
They're like, no, you don't have to say
No,
everything
you
that's
don't need
around
to
you,
say-
Toby. You don't have to
Focus.
And then
Spider-Man,
because that's
Toby.
not enough in this movie full of very good jokes, he also like tries to lean up against one of the cars and sets the alarm off because fuck Peter Parker.
I love that moment. I love that moment. Again, just like other sequences in this movie, they don't quite hit the mark for me. I think that there could have been a bit more there cadence wise to like, the parallels are obviously there. I'm back, my back, obvious, right? But like, it needs to be more blatant.
My back.
My pussy and my crack.
for committing, Andy.
Yeah, I had to commit. I needed a bit more from Toby there, like line delivery wise, to kind of make those parallels a lot more obvious and a lot more, I don't know, modern in terms of how comedy's done nowadays.
But you don't get that for 15 mil. You only get that for 25 mil.
That's true. That's true.
Or 10% of the total gross.
Anyway, we cut over to MJ and Jameson as they're planning their wedding, and MJ's like, I need you to do something for me. She tries a little upside down kiss with him, but the feeling just isn't there for her. The next day, MJ calls Peter for a coffee date and is like, listen, I've come to the conclusion that I love you. I may be rushed into things. My brain was playing tricks on me, Peter. I think I like you. And then Peter's like, fuck. I just decided I want to be Spider-Man again. So I may be rushed into things too. I thought I could be there for you, but I can't. My mind was playing tricks
exhausting.
too.
It's exhausting.
And I'm like, at this point, who cares?
I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
She looks him in the eyes and she says, I just fucking called off my wedding for you, you little brat. I'm going to go see if the astronaut will take me back. Of course she didn't. She hedged her bet. She's not fucking stupid. Anyway, She says, listen, I need you to do
MJ's always
something for me.
MJ's always got at least 2 in the chamber.
Well, she's being constantly screwed over by these idiot guys. So of course she is. What are you going to blame her for that?
Well,
First Harry, now this guy. Then fucking Flash is out there in his PT Cruiser just ripping around town.
I hope he's still out there in his PT Cruiser.
He's definitely. His dad bought him one car, and he was like, I'm not buying you another car. You're a fucking loser, Flash. Anyway, she goes, I want you to do something for me. Kiss me. I need to know something. And
This
he's
is so weird.
It's very weird, right? But especially since Sam Raimi was like, listen, guys. Kirsten Dunst, a very capable actress, a very good-looking human being, but nobody looks good close up when they're closing their eyes and coming in for a kiss. They all look like Greg Miller going, it's weird. And then we cut to Tobey Maguire. I'm like, am I supposed to be really uncomfortable in this scene? Because that's what the cinematography is doing here for me.
Did I hallucinate? And did we pass the scene with Ashaw Man and the upside down kiss?
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit.
Oh, sorry about that. My bad. I blanked over that. But
Yeah.
what did he do wrong there?
Nothing. He's just smoking.
He
He's a
just
smoke show.
wasn't-
What do you
she
want
has
from
a-
me?
He didn't have the stuff.
He's just
She has a
Tobey
Spider-Man
Maguire.
fetish.
You haven't
Andy-
felt Tobey Maguire's lips on your lips.
Andy, let me
It's
explain.
different.
Let me explain to you what this guy did wrong. Okay.
They're soft as his skull.
He went to at least 4, if not 8 years of education to get the degrees necessary, and flight school to get the degrees necessary to become a person who could go out of the stratosphere of the Earth to a different fucking planet. That's what this guy did. And to boot, he's tall.
Yeah, real tall.
But can he shoot white stuff out of his wrist?
That's true.
I mean, it depends on your
I don't-
it depends on your explanation of
Hey,
white
what
stuff
about
after
that?
the
What
wrist.
happens after this kiss, though? Or this
Anyway.
near kiss? Do they kiss? Is everything
They
fine? What
almost
happens?
kiss, and then guess what? Right as they're about to kiss, something starts to tingle. There, Tim, but it's the spider sense, unfortunately, and they die. And I love this fucking shot.
This
man.
is a
This shot
great
came out
shot.
of nowhere, and he dives and saves her from getting just smeared onto the concrete.
There's a
by
reason
car.
they reuse this in Spider-Verse. This is so
It's so
iconic.
cool.
So cool.
We get more stock screams here as Doc Ock comes in and
The crash zoom footsteps, my dude. I love it.
He grabs Peter, he says, Peter, you're gonna go find Spider-Man, and I'm gonna take MJ for insurance. And then he brings the house down on Peter.
Peel the skin off of her flesh.
Plink, 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 plink.
The one thing that I wanted in this scene that I didn't get is Peter trying to appeal to Otto. That's all, just a little bit. He's immediately angry at Otto. And I just that's not a Peter thing. That's all.
Threw a car at him, you know what I mean?
This movie doesn't care. Peter, Spider-Man, they're the same.
Also, this movie is 2 hours and 7 minutes long. At this point, they were like, "Well, let's cut the shit. Let's get up. Let's get to the fight scenes." Doc Ock climbs up, scales a building with MJ in tow, and then Peter bursts out of the rubble like the Incredible Hulk with, I kid you not, just a fan blowing his hair up to let you know how much that inertia was. And he gets pissed off, and as he walks out, everything's blurry until he takes off his signature Peter Parker glasses, and then everything becomes clear. And
because MJ is an object.
Dude, I don't care.
She's a means to an end.
I don't care what happened before this, Carboni. This part's fucking hype as shit.
No,
this part, he drops those glasses.
It's hype as shit until he drops the glasses and they land on the ground, and just one of the glasses just pops out, and it's very basic and non-dramatic. That felt so flat to me.
Okay, I just two things about this. Number one, the thing where like Jonah is about to make a turnaround on Spider-Man, and Spider-Man steals his suit back and leaves the note. And that note, I'm just gonna say, more like Peter penmanship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that note was flawlessly drawn. Like Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It was like Walt Disney himself wrote every letter of that shit.
The kerning, the line width, and everything, perfect, flawless.
It was beautiful.
He took his time on that letter for somebody who, like, his girl just got snatched up by an evil villain.
Well, really, I mean, one of the things that came back when his vision came back was his perfect spider penmanship. You may not remember the scientist in the first film. This spider can jump. This spider turns invisible. This spider can write a thank you card like you've never seen in your life.
Calligraphy. It's a lost art. This spider does calligraphy.
The second thing that I want to say is this fight, no matter what else tonally is going on in this movie, this moment of Doc Ock on this fucking clock tower
hard carry
was something I had wanted to see since I was a child. We get these moments all the time now where these childhood dreams that were in comic books come true. This shit blew my mind.
It rips.
This is everything I wanted.
Of course.
Again, a hard carry for a lot of the movie. This scene, this whole sequence rules.
They tumble down the side of the clock tower onto a train. We get the moving train sequence where Doc Ock decides to start throwing human beings at Peter as he's swinging back to the train, and he keeps grabbing them, webbing them up, and saving them. Gets back onto the train.
This is the real shit, man.
It's great fight where again we get more of him like catapulting himself in and out. Of course, Doc Ock understands, right? He understands. He's seen Superman 2, the movie. He's like, oh, his weakness is these humans, right? So he decides to just break the brake on the train, and it starts going. And again, I'm gonna put it out there. I love New York. I love New York. I love New York. Blessing. Great city.
You have the shirts. Yeah,
great city. Right. Who designed the subway system to just dead end 45 feet above the fucking ground? Who did that?
I had the same question. I was like, is this real? Does that happen?
No,
because that doesn't seem. No. How is that practical?
Not how train tracks work.
New York hasn't even had an elevated train since like I think the 70s. Like
it's all
they had to shoot that in Chicago and then like composite it into New York. Yeah. But like my favorite thing about this scene is Doc Ock casually softball tossing the throttle from the train to Peter, like just such a gleeful fucking cartoon character.
You know what he says? You know what he says? You have a train to catch.
Yeah.
So good.
And walks away. Alfred Molina, give him the Oscar.
Amazing.
Of course, with the breaks
the best Spider-Man in the movie, Alfred Molina.
Fair enough. With the breaks out, Peter has no choice but to be Jesus Christ himself. That's right. He goes up to the front of the train and he's like, I gotta stop this thing. And he starts just shooting. He shoots 2 webs. And he's like, not enough. I'm gonna shoot all the webs at it. And then Tobey Maguire lets out a guttural scream as he ends up stopping the thing from falling over the cliff. But then, of course, the exertion, he passes out, only to be caught by the good people of New York themselves. They pull him onto the train, and they pull little Neo, where they pull him up, and he's kind of got that little Jesus pose a little bit. And they
So
put him
over
down.
the top.
And I kind of like this.
Ridiculously over the top.
It's very over the top. But when they put him down, I like the shot of them looking over at him, and one guy goes, "He's just a kid."
Just a
He's like,
kid.
It's
yeah.
so
They made
so
him
good.
good.
And I like that. And then, of course, Peter wakes up and realizes that for some stupid reason he took his mask off. And
Look at this
he's like,
guy.
"Oh,
He's
shit."
just 41 years old. Look at him.
Yeah,
This guy.
Is that Tobey Maguire? Of course, two little kids come over and they give him his mask back, and they say, "Don't worry, we're not going to tell anyone." And
Those
then
two
one of the
kids are
says,
Tobey Maguire's brothers.
Really?
Yes.
nice.
And
That's kinda
listen, hi everybody. I have a special guest for us. Hold on. Because look, we've been talking a lot about these Spider-Man New Yorkers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these Spider-Man New Yorkers who, like, if you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York, and we love Spider-Man. And we've always wondered what is going through the mind of a Spider-Man New Yorker. And we have one right here on the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, Chloe Dykstra was on this train for real.
Yep. Thank you very much. I am a real life Spider-Man New Yorker right here in the flesh.
And let me ask you this, Chloe. I think I saw you step into scene here this time, and I said, was this shot during the literal most awkward phase of your awkward phase? Is that when this
Wow.
was it 2004?
I wish I could say that it was, but it's approaching. Yeah, you're not far off.
So let me ask you this: because you step out and you are one of the New Yorkers that says, Chloe Dykstra, if you're going to get Spider-Man, you're going to have to go through me. And you step out in your very 90s fucking like thick rimmed narrow glasses and you say, "Me too." What's your motivation? What are you thinking as an actor right there? As a Spider-Man New Yorker, what are you thinking?
As a Spider-Man New Yorker, I'm probably thinking, first of all, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be nice to actually eat some lunch right now? Because that's what I assume what all New Yorkers thinking all the time because they love lunch.
Uh-huh.
Second of all,
And you were probably on that train for 16 hours that day making like extra rates.
I lived in that train for 2 weeks. It was great.
Wow.
I had a bunch of roommates. We had a blast.
That's amazing. So, hey, is Tobey Maguire a dick?
No, he was great.
Okay.
I saw him on the other. I remember I saw him reading a Nintendo Power, and I went, "Oh,
So I'm holding his back.
we are the same," which we were not. But I did think that we were the same.
Wait,
at
he
the
was
time.
on set reading a Nintendo Power
He
magazine?
was. Yes, he was. Yes.
All right, do we take back everything we've been saying about Tobey Maguire, guys?
do. I
Have
think
you
we
been
need
shitting on
to.
Tobey Maguire?
Well, here's the thing. Tobey
Yeah, but
Maguire very
not for the show,
famously faked a back injury to kind of get more money.
We hold it against
I
him.
was not aware of that.
Yeah. And also we don't like the toxic masculinity of this first trilogy. And we blame Tobey Maguire a little bit.
Yeah, but you haven't gotten to the third in the trilogy yet. And
No,
I
we
think
haven't.
The toxic masculinity just goes right out the window there, right?
Yeah, it gets better. Don't worry. The third one's where it peaks. Chloe, I noticed that famous voice actor and nerd Phil Lamar is also
Yes.
a Spider-Man New Yorker on this train. The voice of Hermes from Futurama
Yes.
is the first
voice of
person. He's the
Pretty much everyone ever, yeah.
yeah. He's the first person to Jesus Peter Parker up from the train. How the
That's
fuck did
right.
Phil Lamar wind up on this
don't
train with a
know.
non-speaking role?
I don't know. And that I was like, I think I was 15 or 16 when we shot this, and I was a huge fan of Mad TV. And I remember going, "Why are you here? You're just the greatest." And I think he probably had a bigger part originally that just got, that sort of got minimized a little bit. But like, I remember I became real good friends with Phil while I was on that train, and we're still good friends to this day, like partially because we had a little trauma bond on that train together.
That's amazing. Did you get to see the practical tentacles?
I don't remember. I think we did. Yeah, I also had my own stunt double, which was crazy.
Not even Rosemary Harris did her own stunts, and you couldn't do your own stunts. Aunt May did her own stunts.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about Spider-Man 1 for a second, because you didn't call me during the scene that I was in Spider-Man 1.
Chloe Dykstra, where are you in Spider-Man 1?
Surprise! I was in the gondola. I constantly need to be saved by Spider-Man.
You're
always.
You're in the
That's
Roosevelt
awesome.
tram?
Yes.
The one that they're just going to gently lower onto a tiny barge?
And let me tell you, it was the most fun shoot of my life because there was no safety. They just tilted the whole thing sideways. So like it was like an hourglass, like 20 children just sliding down the bottom of the train. It was so much fun.
Awesome.
Wow.
This is
Chloe-
blowing my mind.
Chloe Dykstra, is there any one memory that enhance, because we found it. You're standing 3 people behind Big Pussy.
Oh my God.
No, that's not Big Pussy.
Are we
Is that not-
No,
Is
that's
that
actually
not Big Pussy?
it's commonly
Are we
misconstrued.
talking about
That's
Joe
Joey
in the
Diaz.
front?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Joey Diaz, not Big Pussy. Joey Diaz.
Big Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple different. I actually, for you, Anthony Carboni, pulled up my old live journal and an entry that I found. A couple entries actually from 2003.
Did you live journal this?
I did live journal this, and I pulled some choice selects for you.
Please.
Which was, and I'll see if I found okay. So I'm just going to read directly from this. So forgive me, or forgive 15-year-old Chloe.
This is great.
And we played gags on the director. One time we were all restless and hungry while half the cast and crew had gone to lunch. Speaking of lunch, the rest of us were waiting at set for Sam. This is Sam Raimi. Obviously, we were on a first name basis at this point.
Yeah, of course.
So to repay him, we all pretended to be asleep. All of us. There were about 150 people scattered about the floor, lying down and snoring. Poor Sam had to step over the crew to get to the train, in which all of the actors were asleep as well. And I also said, it's very fun to torture Chad. I think torture means flirt with Toby's stand-in, who looks exactly like him while rehearsing a scene.
Poor guy.
But I remember, so this is how I'm talking about, this is talking about Joey, which was, there's one real New Yorker on set. He always calls me Avril. Comes up behind me and starts singing Avril Lavigne songs.
That's such a fucking dunk.
Amazing.
Always asking about my self-defense class and always asking me what I'm doing after work as very cutesy, in a cutesy way.
Okay.
He says the F word every other sentence, even when filming, and he talks really loud. He keeps kissing my hand. Ew, it's all slobbery, but he's my favorite.
Oh no!
And then the last thing I'll put, because this is a real sign of the times. I wrote, I believe this was my last day of shooting. I got a line. Thanks to Dad. I'm grateful to him, but I also don't like being known as Dykstra's daughter.
Yeah.
In case you guys didn't wonder or wondering why I was in Spider-Man 2.
Oh no, we know what happened.
Nepotism.
Yeah. The inventor of the lightsaber put you in. Yeah.
Of course. I did not audition for this. Well, my line is me too. This comes after Joey says, you want to get to him, you got to go through us. Some other guy says, and me. And then I say my line. Woot, woot. Maybe I'll get in the credits. O.O.
You woot because it was live journal. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, Chloe, that's amazing. Would you say that this was a formative moment in your life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I consider myself a real New Yorker now.
Yeah, that's allowed. You either have to live in New York for 10 years or meet Spider-Man once. So you did it.
I met him twice, and I saved him the second time.
That's
Fuck
true.
yeah.
What's your
Tell
feeling
Chloe
on
we miss her,
Spider-Man
please.
2?
I actually really liked it. I mean, not to be, I'm obviously biased, but I thought that was a really fun superhero movie. The third one went real off the rails, but I did like the second one.
Are you in the third one? Ask her if she's in the third one.
Are you in the third one?
I'm not. No, I am not in the third one. But I did show up and drag me to hell afterwards. So
Oh.
Fun.
Can
I
you
love
ask her, Can you ask her to say, if you mess with one of us, you
Tim
mess with
just
all of
takes
us?
me he's just like, all right, now come and be in this particular scene. Almost die in this scene, if you will.
I love that. So, okay,
Yeah.
Chloe, I'm going to set you up. And we're going to want you to reenact this powerful moment, okay? Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Mhm.
He's a New Yorker. If you want to get to him, you got to go through me and me.
And wait, fuck. Sorry.
Should we go from one? Should we go from one?
Can we take a reset? to
Sorry,
one, please?
sorry. Her dad invented the lightsaber. We're gonna go for another take.
Sorry. Okay, ready.
If you want to get him, you got to go through me and me.
Me too. Sorry, that was my New Yorker accent coming through. My real New Yorker.
Oh, I believed
I
it.
don't know if you could tell. Yeah.
I could. The motivation was there. Chloe, thank you so much for sharing your stories from Spider-Man and your live journal. What's the URL to that live journal so we can just check it out after?
Oh, let's not. How about not?
We just want to put it. We're just going to try to put it. We're going to put it in the show notes. So if you can just email that to me.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thanks, Chloe.
Bye. Anthony.
Bye.
Utterly fantastic. And
Can you imagine
bring
sitting
it
on
up?
that train for 2 weeks?
That's insane.
I can.
Can you bring it up one more time, Andy? The image where you see Chloe. Are you trying to tell me that the girl to her right is not Barbara Dunkelman?
It looks a lot like B-Dunks, yeah, for
Dude,
sure.
like go left and right a little bit, Andy. Like it's fucking weird.
Oh, we're here?
Yeah.
Barb would have been
Like,
12 when this movie
Not
came
left
out,
and right
though.
that way. Left and right in the play button. I mean,
She
Oh,
she
sorry.
does look like B-Dunks in there.
that looks like Barb.
That's
Oh
a little
yeah,
Barb.
the eyes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's weird because it looks
Oh
like
my
Barb
God.
like 10
It's
years
kinda
ago.
That's my
why
favorite
is-
guy.
Why is the brother from Arrested Development in this? Okay, let's move on with the plot. The kid says, "Hey, it's good to have you back, Spider-Man." He's like, "Oh, cool." And then Doc Ock interrupts, and we get this whole scene we're talking about where Chloe Dykstra is a straw, and he's like, "You got to mess. You can mess with one of us. You mess with all of us." And Doc Ock, again, another great Alfred Molina line. Fine, fuck you, and then just spreads him apart. And grabs Spider-Man, knocks his ass out.
Correcting the problem of the goblin being hit by a big gulp cup and flying away. You know what I mean? Like I love that they flipped that on. They were like, we understand that was a little corny. Here's what an actual fucking villain is going to do in this situation.
Just goes very well. Cool.
And apparently everyone of the New Yorkers left their lead pipes at home. Remember, as a New Yorker, you get your lead pipe when you walk in. Harry
you can go pick one up. You can go pick one up from any police station. They'll give you one for free.
You do. It comes with one of those.
You can get free
little blue cups of
condoms. You can
coffee
get
that
free
you get.
condoms and rebar from any police station or urgent care.
Later that night, Doc drops Spidey off at Harry's, and Harry's like, "Finally!" And he grabs a dagger, and he's like, "I'm gonna stab Spider-Man." I'm like, "Okay." Until he takes off the mask and realizes it's Peter. He's like, "Peter, what are you doing? Are you Spider-Man?" And Peter wakes up and just bursts out of the I guess the whatever is around him. What was it?
It looked like it was just like barbed wire.
Yeah, it
barbed
looked like
wire. Thank you.
barbed wire,
I was looking for the word in here, Anthony. It didn't work out.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Holy shit! Wait, Peter, you're Spider-Man? You killed my dad." And again, this is the part where Peter can be like, "Let's sit for a second and talk about this." But instead, he's like, "We just don't have time for this, man." And he's like, "Can you just give me like a little? Like, how did that go down?" He's like, "Wish I could tell you. We don't have time."
If you're gonna take 30 seconds, really
take 30
make use
seconds
of those 30
and
seconds.
tell him that your dad was a psychopath. And I'm sorry, he made me promise, but he's like, "We just don't have time. Otto's going to blow up the whole city. I got to know where MJ is." And he's like, "Okay, she's over at the dock." And then we cut over to the dock, or Peter tries to sneak in, and he's like, "Spider-Man's dead." And he's like, "Hey, I'm not really dead." MJ's like, "Oh, what's up?" And then Otto's like, "Oh, you're right there." So they start fighting.
Hey,
and the
can I
tussle
just
takes
point
him into
out
the
that
water.
you can't kidnap MJ or put her in danger unless it looks like a wet t-shirt contest?
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, hey, Otto is in the same building. He's dry. He's wearing 4 layers, dry as a bone.
MJ
Why
is-
is she? The water's not even hitting her from that leak. Why?
You don't got to point anything out when them things are pointing out. All right, we know it is so obvious.
She doesn't even have to be
Sam.
here. Like, I know they give the explanation of, "Oh, you would just go to the police," which is a decent thing to throw in there, but he could have dropped her off anywhere and like had just gone and done his thing, and it wouldn't have made a difference. The only reason she was there was to be a damsel.
I want
Yeah.
to point out that she is not only sopping wet, but she's also dirty. And I
Okay,
don't know
Nick.
what that
Okay.
means.
I feel like we're all
But
saying one thing and you're saying another thing. I feel like we're all like the subtext of what we're saying is one thing, and you are getting something totally different out of
I
this.
thought it was very weird that they smeared mud on her arms. I was like, what did she go? What did she go through in between like the cafe
Otto
and
dry
getting
as a
here?
bone, perfectly clean.
She's just glistening, and they like smeared mud on her. It was weird.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
was
would
like
have
very
loved Toby to be like, "Wait, why aren't you wet and like dirty
Yeah.
and gross?" And like,
What
and the
do you
robot
do?
arms being like, "No, we're washing. Like, we wash them off. We clean
It's like,
them."
if you use your robot arms, just like grab her and just smear her on the ground and then put her up. Like, why is she like this?
Yeah.
Man. They fight, and the fight goes into the water, and then Peter does this, yada yada. Meanwhile, the fusion machine is on, and it's sparking, and it's getting bigger. Now it's self-sufficient.
One of my
Let's see,
favorite shots in any of these 3 films is Otto with the savage throw of Peter through the stained glass window,
Right, Peter.
like 100 feet into the air. I'm just like, boy, they really learned how to make a Spider-Man movie in between this first one and this second one, huh? Like, that's
Totally.
a moment.
It was great. And then we actually finally, and I'm not saying this is a great moment, but it's a step forward, get a little moment with MJ where she's like, he goes, run. And she goes, or I'll pick up a log and try to fucking hit this dude in the head and end this thing right now. Of course, it doesn't go well, but kudos to MJ for trying to, or at least the writers for having her contribute a little bit to the climax of this movie, even though she gets knocked out. And then the whole place is about to go down. Peter, I think, electrocutes Otto, and his arms go down for a hot second. And then Peter's like this, you know what, guys? Leap of faith here. Now's that time I'm going to talk to him. Takes off the mask. And it's like, Otto, it's me, Peter Parker. And Otto's like, oh, the lazy one. And Peter's like, like, whatever, like, brilliant.
Yeah.
He goes, no, lazy. He goes, you know what, fuck you, Otto, fuck you. That's what he says.
It's better than punching me in the face with metal, so sure.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. So he's like, you want... And then he's like, tries to appeal to him. And it's like, those things you once spoke to me about intelligence. It was the gift to be used for good of mankind. These things have turned you into something you're not. And he goes, it was my dream. And then he goes, to quote Aunt May. And then he just goes into the paragraph of information that Aunt May just said. Sometimes you guys,
who knew that it would be relevant so quickly?
Have you heard Henry Jackson from across the street? Have you heard of this kid? Let me tell you a little story about Henry Jackson here, Otto. Poor Blessing's like, I have plans tonight. Oh, not anymore, Blessing. Not anymore. Welcome to KindaFunny. Anyway, Otto's like, you're right. He grabs him by the throat, but he's like, no, I can stop this. And he's like, you know what? The only way to stop this, actually, there is no way to stop a fusion bomb from going off, except and if only we had a big river. Oh, wait, the river. We can do that. We can just drown this thing. And he goes, no.
If you dunk the sun in water, you're fine.
Hey, sure. Yeah, I guess. Sure.
Yeah.
It's a self-sustaining, millions and millions of small nuclear explosions happening, pushing out, and the only thing keeping them in is gravity, keeping it in stasis. But I'm sure water would stop that too. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And he's like, no, I have to do this. I have to do this. It's on me. And then of course we get this great
a good
part
character moment.
He pushes Peter aside, and as Peter turns, he looks over and he locks eyes with MJ, and she's like, fuck, I knew it. I knew you were Spider-Man. I did the upside down kiss, but now I'm here. And then but then a wall starts coming down and Peter screams, no, just like Darth Vader did in that one movie that Anthony likes. And then he jumps over and he grabs the wall. And then he's like, MJ, in case we die. And she says, you do love me. And he goes, I do.
Darth Vader?
No, where is Padme? And then it's like, the wall's coming down. And the boy grabs it. He's like, Emperor, I love you. No, okay.
This is the part of the film where the organic webs really make me ask questions, because he makes that big ass web that they are hanging out on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Peter, is this tiring for you? Where did this come from? What is it made of? How much do you have to eat tomorrow? How many calories is this web?
Mm-hmm.
Let's discuss. MJ, are you not grossed?
Are you know how much heavy lifting my mind does as I'm watching this movie? Because when I see them hanging out in the web, in my mind, I'm like, oh, because he got because he got bit by the spider, he just has the interest to make webs in this very decorative way now. like I don't know why my brain was just like, just go with it.
Because he doesn't shoot it out in that pattern.
I know, he shoots it out as like
carefully crafted thing.
It's like string shot from Caterpie, right? It's like one stream, so he has to like take his time and make art, which for some reason my mind was like, oh no, it makes sense.
Yeah, this conversation too, I'm just kind of like, the whole thread of this conversation, and I'm glad that there's a bit where it calls back to this at the very, very end, but he does not give her a choice, which is a very big theme in this whole movie, is all this trilogy, is nobody thinks about MJ as a person. He's like, you can see why I'm Spider-Man, and so we can't make it work. I can't do that to you. You have no say in this. I got to go by. Oh, okay, man.
Okay. And then, of course, he does the thing that we talked about a little bit earlier, which is like that sort of like unrequited love like thing that he does, where he like puts the mask back on and looks over his shoulder one more time as the love of his life reunites with the astronaut, and then he swings away, and it's all so melodramatic. Cut over to Harry playing with his knife, and he starts hearing voices despite never having come in contact with a goblin gas. And you're like, this makes no sense and is bonkers, but I am on it, man. Let's go.
So
shout out to Willem Dafoe for making a cameo here. And he's like, you used to suck, kid. You fucking suck so bad, but you're not gonna suck anymore right now.
I've come back from death to remind you that I'm disappointed. Very funny thing is, the whole reason this scene exists is Willem Dafoe was literally walking in New York, saw the crew, recognized some of them, and was like, oh, hey guys, what's up? And went in to talk to them. and they were like, "Hey, Willem, do you want to do like a quick thing?"
Wow.
And that's literally
I
where
love
this whole
that.
scene
That's
came from.
incredible.
That's so funny.
No wonder it doesn't make sense.
Not
because
worth it.
Legitimately, it was like hey, like let's get you on here and let's not explain it narratively at all. All they had to do was like be like, oh, he's sleep deprived. That's why he's now seeing things. They didn't even go as far as that.
He hit a button and just goes into the thing. Goes, oh my god, my dad was Green Goblin. I can whatever. Doesn't.
This
My
is
dad was
Raimi.
Green Goblin.
Go for it, Andy.
Go on.
I was just gonna say this is Raimi inviting his old friends, just like Bernard from earlier.
Yeah.
This scene to me is emblematic of the Raimi Spider-Man movies, where it's like it doesn't make sense. It's arguably bad, but it's fucking hype as hell, and it's exciting and it's classic. And I'll never forget watching this in the theaters and being like, "Holy shit, they're doing it! They're doing the thing, and they're doing it in a way that is interesting in this movie universe." And it doesn't go that way, but it's just like I hate that I feel like there always has to be butts and asterisks to talking about these movies because it's like. As good as it is, it's not actually good.
No.
It's a great sequence that lacks motivation. It also makes me wonder why Norman stored his pumpkin bombs that way. Like it just was like,
You know why? You know why?
They're so well organized.
Like,
And,
they're
was
so
the
careful.
maid cleaning it? Like, I can't believe Norman Osborn as
did
a
he fucking do it
billionaire.
for the gram bless? Did he do it
Yeah.
for the gram?
Like, why does it look so clean and good? Why did he take his sweet time putting those things up?
Harry, you are fucking worthless. Like I was, Dad. Dad, why are they organized this way? I'm very OCD. I need to see them nice and perfect.
Anything worth doing, right. Here, of course, it ends with Harry grabbing the Green Goblin serum, and he's like, "Now I know what needs to be done. Therapy, lots and lots of therapy."
One
the next
person go to
day-
therapy once challenge.
Jesus God. I mean, that would all these kids. MJ the next day ditches out on her wedding. The door is open. No one there except for one of the bridesmaids, who is an actress that's been in a bunch of stuff, and I meant to look up her name.
She's the
but
one that made the interesting hat choice in the previous scene.
correct.
There were so many opportunities to walk away from this wedding before this, MJ.
Yep.
MJ, you're kind of the worst.
Day of, kind of the worst, right? Of course, she not only does she not tell John, she leaves him a note that he opens up, and we see a close up on it. It says, "You suck, John. You fucking suck."
Yeah.
And then Jameson, banger line from J.K. Simmons here, where he's like, "Call Deborah and tell her not to open up the caviar." I'm like, smart man. MJ runs through New York with the most amazing filter on this camera that makes everything just glow. And she heads straight
Her
up
whole
to
life is
Peter's.
in Pro Mist, like 3 stops of Pro Mist, and I love it.
Unbelievable. She heads up to Peter's studio apartment, and she says, "Had to do what I had to do. Peter, I can't survive without you. I know you think we can't be together, but can't you respect me enough to let me make my own decision?"
No one can. You're an object.
Yes. She should have been like,
1000%.
I know there will be risks, but I want to face those risks with you. It's wrong that we should only be half alive, half ourselves. I love you, so here I am standing in your doorway. I've always been standing in your doorway.
That's
Isn't
not
it
true.
about time somebody saved your life?
Now
Say
that's very
something.
unhealthy.
Yes.
That's extremely unhealthy.
Yes. Very unhealthy. Say something. And he says, "Thank you, Mary Jane Watson." And then they kiss. But right on cue, sirens ring out in the distance, and Peter shoots MJ that look, to which she replies, "Go get him, Tiger."
Cool
And
as shit.
all of a sudden, all is forgiven.
Fucking all.
And this movie is awesome.
It's
You wanna-
so good.
You want to talk about a perfect delivery from one Kirsten Dunst. Just go fucking get it. Like, that's the thing. If you're about to go into like a football game, Andy, or one of your basketball games, you're like,
Yeah,
I need
one
this
of
little
my
bit of
basketball
inspiration.
games.
And your girlfriend looks at you like that and says, "Go get him, Tiger." You're like, I'm about to fucking rip someone's
Yeah.
foot off.
I'm
man.
about to get a
Better.
triple double, dude.
Bigger than that, though, it's not a basketball game, and it's not football. It's none of that. It's fucking Spider-Man, and he jumps out the window and he starts swinging, and then there's fucking attack
American
helicopters
flag, yeah.
behind him,
And
it's
American
just like,
flags.
let's go. And then he lands the American flag, and it's just like, yeah, fuck everybody.
Swings
Okay,
past him.
man.
And it's hype. And then we get another great decision where we cut back. We don't end on that. We're like, oh, we're going to end on this American flag sequence with the helicopters. No, we cut back to Mary Jane with a very somber look on her face as she stares off into the distance. And that's it.
What I really
Except for Dashboard
Take it away.
what I really, really want to happen is we all know the very infamous sequence in Batman versus Superman, the Martha moment. I want there to be a Peter Parker moment between John Jameson and Harry, and then being like, wait, he stole her from you too? And them have that connection. Like, they need to be the villains. Why do we get fucking what's his face in part 3?
Turn into a wolf about it.
Sandman.
You know, if you're really
no.
mad, if you're really mad about him taking your lady, turn into a fucking wolf about
let's
it.
see you act
Let's
up
see
on
you
it.
do it, Spaceman.
It's just so useless.
Dashboard Confessional, by the way, agreed to write this song only if they got an early advance screening of the film.
Good for them.
And they did. And then reportedly, they wrote this song in 10 minutes and were like, we got to see Spider-Man early.
That's their confession. Yeah. I love that Mike L in the chat says terrible, and then moments later replies, perfect movie.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like
So good.
it's like they wrote this movie and they were like, we don't really know how we're gonna get there with these two characters, but they knew where they wanted to go. And I'll be honest with you, I like where it ended up. Hate how they got there with those two characters. It's just totally unearned. But this moment with the music, the way it's shot, and again, Kirsten Dunst is like perfect line delivery of this. Just fucking inspires you, man. It gives you hope. You're like, yeah, man, he's gonna go out there. He's gonna be Spider-Man. It's gonna be awesome. Shout out to the Dunst, man.
Andy Cortez, last week we went really long, so we didn't get to do what I like to call haiku and review. But I would like to bring it back today.
We went longer this week.
I don't.
No. We're at least
2.5.
We're 7 minutes shorter.
We're 2.5 right now. I don't have the music because it's gonna fuck up the way I'm running the show or whatever. So we're just gonna do it acoustically. 7 syllables in the middle. You need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review. Really hard to play it sing at the same time. Holy shit.
I am blown the fuck away that as far as I know, you've never played that acoustically, and you're just
I just had to look at it right now because I have no way of playing the music for y'all, and I didn't want to just clap it. That is so hard. That is so hard.
That was incredible. That
You're
was incredible.
talented.
If you want to support that type of talent, you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write your reviews in haiku form. Now, since we didn't do last week's Miscellaneous, the MVP of haiku and review, wrote one in and we didn't get to it. So I want to read the one from last week before I read this week because they're so damn good. So here we go. Miscellaneous writing in. Plot and haiku for Spider-Man 2002. Adults on school trip. Harry's stealing Peter's shit. Oh, damn. He got bit. Off to see Osborn. I will pull funding, he's warned. Then Green Goblin's born. He has amassed fans. Ben's death catalyzed his plan. He is Spider-Man.
Wow.
Goblin knows his name. To kill Peter is his aim. Goes after the dame. Osborn, killed by greed. Desperation to succeed. Spider-Man. Godspeed.
Wow.
That's
God
awesome.
damn,
That was
miscellaneous.
beautiful.
And then for number 2, Andrew Feisner writes in and says, when Peter met Otto, Rosie, I love this boy. Brilliant, but lazy. Good job.
Yeah,
That's really, really good.
And then Miscellaneous does another plot in haiku. Struggles, Pete conceals. Won't tell MJ how he feels. Self-induced ordeals. Peter and Doc meet, nerding out over this feat. His life's work complete. Demonstration time. The reaction crossed a line, and Harry just whined. Sign he can't ignore. After falling 30 floors, Spider-Man. Anthony, say it.
No more.
Yeah, baby. Otto gained some sense. To destroy, it must be drenched at his life's expense. Miscellaneous, you're too fucking good.
You
I nearly
did
said
too good of a
Spider-Man.
job for this movie.
Like, God damn, that was awesome.
I nearly said Spider-Man, strong Ford.
Oh,
The focus
my
was
God.
forward.
I fucking love it. Guys, I love doing this show with you. I just want to let you know that this is 2 hours and 32 minutes, and I fucking had
I'm
a blast.
sorry.
And it's
No.
and here's the thing, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes for a movie that I don't even love, and I'm just having fun. I'm having
Yeah.
fun.
Cannot wait. I cannot wait until next week.
I know. I
It's
know.
gonna
God,
be
yeah.
so fun.
This
to
is
do
what
this
it's all
with you
been
guys.
building to.
Strap in.
This is where Sam Raimi just really brings it home.
Can't wait. God. Well, everybody, like I said, we have a big week for In Review. We got Ghostbusters In Review. Number 1 is live now. Of course, you're watching this now. Later this week, we got Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. And then next week, we're coming back with Spider-Man 3 and Ghostbusters 2. Very exciting stuff. Till next time, love you all. Goodbye.